SWAT box, what are you doing here? This is a combat zone. It's restricted. Ease off on your main thruster and head over to patreon.com/SWOCBC for episodes of our all-new series, Inside the Insider, where the gang explores articles from every single issue of the official Star Wars Insider fan magazine in order and get an even closer look at how Star Wars and its fandom have evolved over the years. New episodes with each public upload months earlier for patrons. Red 24, Red 30, follow me to patreon.com/SWOCBC for the latest episode of SWAT Box, Inside the Insider today. In target range, it's ahead. All ships jump to light speed. The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/SWOCBC for ad-free episodes, reading guides, movie and TV episode audio watch-alongs, and more. Today's Old Canon Fact of the Day comes from a guide to the Star Wars universe, 3rd edition by Bill Slavichik, first published in 2000. After the two survived a raid on an Imperial weapons depot, Jabba the Hutt made Effent Mon his secret internal security officer. He tried to convince Jabba to believe Luke Skywalker and let the Jedi and Han Solo go free. Jabba refused, and Effent Mon decided not to ride out on the sail barge that day. He returned to his homeworld Vinsoth and founded a sect of Force worshippers. Today's selection is Star Wars, the original Marvel Years Volume 4 by David Michelin, Walter Simonson, Joe Duffy, and Tom Palmer, among others, whose latest issue was first published on April 12, 1983. Enjoy the show, and may the Force be with you, always.
You rebel trash.
Whoa!
You scum.
Damn.
You insurrectionist riffraff. Welcome back to the Star Wars Old Canon Book Club. We're out here.
You sounded like
on the
a
bridge.
rebel person trying to like role play.
I too am an Imperial.
Imperial.
I'll take that. That means
Just
I'm
like,
secretly a good guy.
You fucking rebel assholes. What do we
Mel
say?
Gibson.
Right, guys?
Mel Gibson going around the barn in signs trying to sound scary. Super specific reference, but perfect if you get it. We are here once again for yet another Marvel Star Wars, the original Marvel Years Epic Collection.
Oh, yes.
We're getting close to the end. I believe there's like one or two more of these after this, and we got a lot of stuff to do before we see them all again.
Speaking of the end,
Yeah. What?
these comics peter off, my
These?
friends.
Okay.
They peter off.
They started really strong.
start is
I
amazing.
was like, fuck yes, for so much of it, and then some of the back ones I'm like, okay.
So we got
I started to pay attention though more to the creative teams.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, and I guess I talked about it with you because I'm like, why is it that like they have the same writers, but then one issue will be written by somebody else, and it sounds like it comes down to just like you didn't finish the other one in time, so they have people do other issues to like buy in time.
Or they just schedule it out. If you think about it, like every comic book writer's writing like 5 comic books at least, right? Like, because this is like almost like sweatshop era. You know what I mean? Like kind of that vibe where you're cranking these suckers out, right? So like, you know, maybe you're like, well, I got time to write this story, and this one's had this many issues, and this one's this many issues. So we got space for like a 2-parter right here, and it needs to have this in it to like move the story forward. So can you just go write that? But that's what I was going to say is like, for this one, it's a little bit different. Obviously, there's no UK influence here. This is all the like American Marvel comic series.
Sure.
The only thing that's not numbered is like the annual, and it's annual number 2, I think.
But this, the brilliance of, I think, the beginning of this is the first half is one cohesive story.
Yeah.
That I was loving, I was feeling it. And the second half is another cohesive story, except it feels like a lot of the times when we talk about modern Star Wars, when it's like, here's a book where we can't really do anything, but it's going to hype you up for the movie that's going to come. It feels like that, where it's like, let's go look for Han Solo. And it's just nothing, dude, nothing happened.
There was,
happened.
it does, yeah,
There's some
it
cool
does.
stuff, but I will say this. This entire trade is written by David Michelin, which is like a new writer to us, I believe. I don't think that this person has written any Star Wars comics before this, and they wrote pretty much this entire trade, except I think
Dude, him and Walter Simonson, weren't they like the because one like is a writer and one is a drawer, but they're both plot creators, right? Isn't that like how it works because of the Marvel method?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean it's pencilers and writers, and they work together for a bunch of this. And Simonson does get a writer credit on this.
They just actually, I noticed, dude, like slash plot for a lot of the people in this, where I don't remember seeing that before. Like they didn't credit them with the plot.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's because I didn't realize it till a few issues in that like it is one story they're telling.
Yeah, I mean
And
they're really
it's set
trying.
up. It's
yeah.
set up early and then it pays off later. And I was like, "Yo, all right, this is kind of good."
It feels to me like the reading level. Like this is my thought, right? When I was first starting to like decide I'm really going to work in YouTube as a career, right? I started to like put the feelings out and like try to get put feelers out and try.
You put the feelings
try
out there,
to like raw
hard on
dog
your
it.
sleeve, man.
Like, yeah, just like empathize with everybody and just be real. No, I put the feelers out and got a job that didn't end up panning out, but we started production on it. That was like, hey, the audience of Smosh is getting older, so we need like an older vibe, like something for that audience to like latch onto that doesn't have the like 13, 14-year-old comedy that Smosh was having as their like main sort of flavor, right?
How'd that work out? Did they go back to that?
They kind of did the thing that they set out to do. It just ended up going with like hot people instead.
Right.
But that's like
The internet. No, I get
to be
it.
honest, I get it.
That's why I do my show.
And they're great.
hot people.
But like that vibe,
A lot of things I do because of hot people.
yeah.
yeah. That vibe though, I think is what's happening here with this Star Wars is that instead of being a thing for like children, we're seeing Star Wars now as a thing for like, this is now we're in 1982 and 1983, right? So like at this point, the people that have been watching Star Wars have been watching it for at least 6 years. So like if you think about like if you're like 11 or 12 or 13 when you watch Star Wars, which is according to everybody who is apologizing for Star Wars being bad, the people that Star Wars is for, it's just for kids. Just relax. Jar Jar Binks, just relax. It's just for kids. Ewoks, don't worry about it. It's just for kids. But like if you started in 77, let's forget about how old you are in 2024 for a second and just imagine it's 1982.
Sure.
6 years later, you're now like on the verge of being 20 years old, maybe, right?
There is, I think you're right because the thrust of both story arcs is the first one, Luke is definitely getting laid and Leia is upset. And the second story arc is like, like a pink woman is definitely just flirting with everyone on screen all day, all the time.
And Han Solo has sex with someone all night long.
I was going to say,
this
this is the first time in Star Wars they've like almost explicitly, because they didn't say like they fucked, but they were like, and they had all kinds of fun all night long,
overnight, yeah.
And they like woke up like cuddling. So it's
And they're like,
wow, this
imagine-
is like the most explicit like
It is
fucking that's
ultra
existed in
horny,
Star
this
Wars.
entire-
But also, like, imagine
series.
a race of women aliens that is so horny that, like, once they see you, they never want to stop having sex with you.
The galaxy knows this to the point
Yeah.
where there are characters who are like, keep away from me, lady.
Hey. That's truly, like, some male fantasy shit right there. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
there's still some of that,
But-
going on. But
That's a lot less chaste than Star Wars has been.
I was thinking like in my head, this feels like we're in a new generation of writing. Like,
Sure.
the
Yeah.
art's better, the writing is better. I never thought about it with the context of like aging up stuff, but I think you're right in that like the writing is better because it's just more complex.
Yeah,
and,
like Jesse said,
more
the
adult.
second
written. I
this-
never like thought about that. So I could definitely see that like
Yeah, but it's not necessarily like Jesse said. For example, the second arc of this like kind of drags a little bit.
But the thing is,
and
the
there's still
writing-
one-off kind of like adventures that are like.
but it's
okay.
it's the tone. They're aiming for smarter people.
Yeah,
Like,
the writing
yeah.
and the visuals across the board are incredible. It's just that not much actually happens in the second half. Again, I think that's a totally different issue than what we have on. But everything in here is really good. There's one thing I noticed, and again, I think it goes back to the women. I think you guys are absolutely right. There's a vibe of like, dudes writing for dudes who are in their late teens, early 20s. There's a legit scene where Leia's just like, I know that I love Han, but I like Luke. And Luke is a nice guy, and he's a great friend, but why am I so jealous that Luke is getting it on with someone? Like, it has the vibe of, like, guys, like, women, man.
It's so
I'm trying to get with this girl, and she doesn't want to be with me, and now that I'm with someone else, she's mad at me? Like, what's that about? It has this weird vibe to it. I'm like, okay.
It's like, do you ever feel a breaking now?
Yes, yeah.
Like, it's like kind of like doing that for, like, somebody like Davis who, like, was, like, a Luke guy. You know what I mean? Like, you want to imprint that on Luke, and then Solo, same thing, but he's kind of like, you're a little older if you like Han Solo, so he's, like, being like, hey, you want to spend the night in my dorm room? And you're like, oh, shit.
This is straight up just Luke banging his way across the galaxy, and the fact that Leia's jealous, even though clearly she's with Han, is like
It's hilarious.
It's a weird vibe.
It really is like, because it's all this. We didn't live in the moments where you didn't know it was happening. Like, for as long as I've known, they're brother and sister.
Right.
So, like, what is it like to grow up here and be like, hold on, Han and Leia, like, but they're still working together. Like, what's going on?
And
Like,
there's even a couple scenes where, like, there's tension again between Luke and Leia, where they're like about to.
And then a dude opens the door like, "Oh, Master Luke."
it feels like because they don't know what's going on yet, that they were still like, well, let's keep a love triangle option open until the movie solves it, because we can't actually go any further.
But then there's also scenes that are beautifully illustrated where it's just like Leia's silhouette and it's Han in the background. She's like touching herself, like, "Oh, Han."
Yeah.
It's wild.
Oh yeah, that she has like a hollow projector of Han.
Yeah,
like is the implication that
it's
yes. But then she's like, "But Luke, why am I so jealous of Luke?"
Yeah, and then
it's
it's
like, what is happening right now?
or the one that sounds like the Indiana Jones love song. Yeah, whatever. You get it. You guys know. You guys know the songs I'm talking about. You guys are weird Star Wars fans like us. You get it. You get it. You get it.
Also, what's sick, like, they figured out Lando now. Like,
Absolutely.
Dude.
100%.
I was excited for Lando now to be a character before, but he like didn't really. Here they like characterize him really well.
He's cooler here than he is in the movie. He
They
like
finally like agree that he is a gamesman. I have like the opening quote for like the first issue. By the way, all the little openings now that catch you up are like so fun and interesting. They like completely get you ready for the vibe of the issue.
there was one that was super long though. I forget which one it was. It was like one of the ones where they were like looking for. I think it was the Boba Fett one, like the one where it's not Boba Fett. They like did an entire recap of the first issue in the first like 3 pages.
Like, we need to explain why they're doing this again. Also, shout out to them for including this time. I don't remember it being so much before, but this time when they say a thing, they do the Marvel thing of like, from issue 17 back at like, and they. I don't remember them doing that a bunch, but this is a lot.
It's in there,
They
but
did it a little bit. I think because now it's more serialized. They do it. They even kick back to like the last episode 90 times.
Yeah.
We're getting closer to comic shop vibes. Like, still at this point in the 80s, most people I think are buying comics
At the grocery
at the
store.
grocery store, are on a news rack, but we're at the point where it's about to be comic shops. And so I think just the idea of creating that intertextuality like that is like a great sales tool, a great thing for collectors, just kind of like, I think that's just part of it that maybe is just, I don't know, these comic books to me, the ones that we read in here feel so much more like the tone and shape of the things that I read every day.
Sure.
By a lot.
I will say the best thing they did, I thought it was so funny. I don't know if it's good, but it made me laugh. Last panel, Darth Vader's face, underneath it, "We dare you not to buy the next issue."
Yeah.
I laughed so hard.
Dude, I like took a picture of that. That's the most like, you should sue them for false advertising.
It was literally a hologram.
It's like, it was like it was such a fake. I'm like, I would be pissed.
I laughed so hard. I was like, I can't believe they had the audacity to be like,
dare you not
"We
to buy
dare
it."
you."
Now, people weren't angry at stuff yet. People realized that it was just a fun little.
I couldn't believe it was. I was like, I couldn't believe that was included in the comic. It was just like editor's note. Don't be a bitch. Get the next issue.
Fuck you, little kid. Give me your money, loser.
It was incredible.
But yeah, Dave Michelin really, like, I don't think that Star Wars, like, we had Han Solo, and that kind of hit like a, like, you know, older vibe for the audience on those books, but they still felt niche. They don't feel blockbustery. They don't feel big. But I happen to know that this comic book was selling gangbusters at this time, right? Like this was like one of the most popular comic books on the racks, right? To see it level up to that level of intellectualness, and just think about comics in general at this time also, right? Like this is now the 80s, right? And I was talking about how the British invasion was happening last time because we were talking about Alan Moore. This is that same era, right? Like we're T-minus what, like a couple years from Watchmen and all those like adult things. So Star Wars and probably all Marvel comics, especially like X-Men from this time. Sure. You know, if you go read it, it's very adult. That was where the audience was at. And I know it's dumb, but if you think about it, like the average person who reads comics today is like 60 years old. Right. So if you think about that and you age back to the 80s, which was 40 years ago. Sure. Right. They're like now 20. So,
I mean, this is the run up to what I consider probably the darkest part of comics, which is that early 90s period where everything was like
era.
Spawned out.
Yeah.
Everything was super hyper violent.
Image Comics was here. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, or like ultra sexual, where it's like Lady Death every cover you walk in the comic shop and be like, I don't know if I should look at this.
Embarrassed.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So do I.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the vibe. I feel like last time we were talking about the like protoverse of Star Wars, which I think is super real still. Like none of this is going to be real so soon.
But it's, again, so much of it is, I'm going to say borrowed for future content. Every time I see like an ATPT show up or I see like a thing happen where I'm like, yo, they use that in the 90s. That comes back.
There's some stuff. Yeah, there's some stuff even in this that I felt was similar. But
there is a main character in this that comes back huge later.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold up. This is where they start? Yeah. I was blown away. I was so shocked.
And it's crazy how close to the Galactus that is heir to the Empire this is getting. Like, it's not going to be, I thought it was going to be more of like, quit playing with those silly toys, like, you know, like looking at Golden Age comics versus looking at like modern day comics where it's like, gosh, gee Willikers, Han Solo. Like, I thought it was going to be like a clean jump from that stuff to, you know, near cinematic movie style storytelling.
Yeah.
But we're really seeing it gradually evolve a lot more than I expected.
With that said, there's still plenty of Star Trek moments in this. These comics sometimes go big Star Trek and away from, like, there's weird sci-fi elements or characters that are included, or like we just added this weird thing where it's like space monks or
nothing close to what we got last time.
Right, but it's still there. There's still elements of like, oh, this is a different type of sci-fi.
For sure. Yeah. Like that's kind of characteristic of this era of Star Wars, I think, that as we're getting almost to the Return of the Jedi now, where I feel like it's going to kind of end for the most part for a while. I think we're going to like time jump through some weird hoops to get to the 90s. Like, I think Return of the Jedi kind of marks the end of it. But
yeah, I think like maybe, I don't want to put this all on Timothy Zahn, but I feel like during the early years of the books in the beginning of the 90s, they really solidified that Star Wars is grimy and feels old, rather than the comics have a lot of bright visuals and everything kind of looks neat. There's some planets that straight up just look like when the X-Men go to space kind of vibes.
It's very Blade Runner-y in the comics. Like, I would say in general, the pulpiness and the like hard-boiledness of Star Wars gets turned up a lot, especially in the comics, but even in the
90s? Yeah. When it's like Dark Empire and stuff.
It's definitely reflecting the Spawn, the Sandman, all that shit. Like, people are trying to get, like, that's why Jedi get more spiritual and stuff. Like, the early Jedi shit that happens in the 90s too is like that same kind of like, it's extreme, it's violent.
It's also the weird vibe that when you go watch, because you have all of the 90s where it seems gritty and there's like a dark nature to it and all the issues are coming out. It was all like old lost fleets and ships that are falling apart. That was the vibe. Or like secret core worlds.
Exar Kun even almost looks like Cable.
Yeah.
He looks.
There's some like really cool vibes.
He now, like, that I think about it, when I like first you hear about Exar Kun a lot and you go see him and you're like, Chad? Like, you're like a different
looks like
look.
Jack Kirby.
Yeah, you're like a different.
Right.
You don't look like how Jedi look.
No.
But again, you can get away with that because it's thousands and thousands of years ago, right?
So maybe that never goes away. Like, maybe rather than it being like a pulpier protoverse, which definitely we're in a protoverse, but like maybe that characteristic pulpiness stays in the comics the whole time. Maybe we're never going to lose that sort of extra, like the weird, like a planet of demon gargoyles or whatever. Like
There was, we did get gargoyles, yeah.
like maybe that's just what happens in the Star Wars comics, and just right now we're just in this era where we're missing books.
With fucking the British comics, it's like they like lean on like high fantasy.
Sure.
These always, and they have from the beginning, but they still do. They like pirates,
Right.
Yeah.
They talk with pirate accents.
Yeah, a lot of like really
many pirates.
Irish, or like there was a Russian race
Yeah.
at one point, but yeah.
The like fucking what are the Mandalorians are sick, but it's hard because they write them with like
Dragon Quest level
accents.
Yeah.
Where you're like, ugh.
Speaking of Dragon Quest, there is fully an issue where they go to Fantasy Dragon World, and it's one of the craziest things I've ever read in my
Yeah,
entire life.
that's true.
I don't even know how that Argonian made shit got like the art is wild, everything, and it's part of what's weird about this is reading this. I have the same vibe as when I saw episode 1, 2, and 3. 3 is kind of like a little darker, but 1 and 2, Lucas was just swinging for
The art
like,
is insane. Looks like Dinotopia.
Yeah, it's really bizarre because I think maybe it's in the 90s, everything was so dark that when we got hit with the joy of that was sort of like sent in episode 1, where it's like everyone's a little happy and over the top and everything's a little too bright. In episode 2, there's just straight up a diner for no reason.
It's like a little cornier, but like it's a different
it feels more
reference.
like these
Yeah.
than it does everything that was happening in the 90s. And
Two
that's
especially
it's also
has that, like,
pulpier.
kind of noir pulpy like.
yeah.
Yeah.
2 feels like
2 is the
what you would get in a
detective
comic.
movie,
And the fact that they
2
keep
is
going back to that
almost
planet
so
that
good.
I can't remember the name, like Shaylang, whatever the hell that planet's called, where they literally just have the John Carter of Mars aliens.
Oh yeah.
I keep thinking like that's such an episode 2
Geonosis.
vibe.
Geonosis.
Yeah, it has a
vibes.
genosis.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where Lucas's head was at. Maybe Lucas likes this stuff more than he likes the 90s grit. I don't know.
I think maybe he didn't like the Rabbit because it wasn't some like Frank Frazetta type shit, which all this kind of is.
It was nonsense, and the original ones were like very. Even though there's like comedy in them, it's not like the universe's stakes are very real.
But maybe that's just because he didn't have the balls to go that hard.
I guess it seems like early on he really liked hard sci-fi fantasy. Like even though it's a fantasy story, it's like the look of it is hard sci-fi.
Pretty
like a lived-in universe.
spaceships and stuff.
Yeah, like
But you know, Tatooine, like we're just used to it. We're really used to Tatooine, but like the huts are fantasy looking. They look like they could be in the background of one of these like weird desolate worlds. It's just like the one that we see like far too much is Tatooine, and it's like almost like we give it a pass and it feels modern to us because we're used to it. But I think it kind of looks kind of ridiculous. And it has like big dinosaurs walking around and stuff. I don't know. It's like one of the only places we even ever see in Star Wars like this. And then, of course, the next place that we get is just another Tatooine. You know, Jakku is the same environment as Tatooine. And so it's interesting to think about a jungle planet that has a civilization on it, but we've never seen one.
yeah.
But I bet you it would look kind of like this. You know, or like, you know, I don't know, or like a cave planet. I bet you if we saw one that had a civilization on it, it would look something more like from the comics. Like Canto Bight fits perfectly in with the type of shit, or that weird like Japan ice planet that they go to in Rise of Skywalker feel like 1970s Star Wars. They even go back to the wheel at one point in this in this story, which
For like a panel or something. To like,
which to me, it feels like how Canto Bight is, where you're like, it's like almost not Star Wars. It's like almost just Las Vegas, or like it's almost just like a cruise ship or some
you know
shit.
what? I don't know. What this just made me think about. Bespin is like some Jetsons ass shit, but again, like treated very seriously and not like they applied a more like I don't know what term to use besides more
maybe
like
the comics-
realistic and lived in like look to it, and I'm like, oh,
Maybe it's just the cartooniness that it comes across a little zanier. I don't know.
With that said, when we jump into this first issue,
Yeah.
when we talk about Bespin, knowing science as I know it now,
Yeah.
I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
The entire time I'm like, nah.
I don't think so, bud.
Nah. That's not where Ugnaughts are from. Get out of here. No.
Yeah, the whole situation about Bespin, like, God bless them, but they messed
I
up.
was like, no, this sucks.
Star Wars 56, Coffin in the Clouds. Lando Calrissian goes back to Cloud City because he is trying to go back and, like, redeem himself.
Also, the names of these issues, like, so good.
Yeah.
Question for you guys. Did you have the original comic cover for this? Because just shout out to Coffin in the Clouds for having a giant thing at the top that says, chance to win 10-speed racer bike.
Columbia bike.
They had that in the,
I was like, I wonder who won that.
Yeah,
Like,
incredible.
what kid out there got that bike? I hope you're living your best life.
Hell yeah.
60-year-old man.
I hope you're listening to the Star Wars Old Canon Book Club because I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so he's like, I gotta like make good on my fuck up about selling out the heroes to Darth Vader and shit. Even though it was like not really my fault and I was forced, I still did it. It's still on my hands. I'm responsible for it. So he goes back to Cloud City. It's abandoned, and he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's like, it's automated. Like, I wish I could do that shit.
Yeah.
But then Lobot shows up and he is like glitching out, is like Frankenstein.
Terminator style.
Yeah. And
What's interesting, by the way, is they reference him as a Lobot.
the Lobot.
There's at one point they call him a Lobot, like as in they are a standard issue or there are multiple ones.
Interesting.
Which was fascinating.
I love
He's been
that-
so many different things.
There's two
That-
lines of dialogue that I love in this. The first one is that Lando calls it a magnificent pastel-spired metropolis. I've never once thought of Cloud City as pastel, but I love that. I
bless
think it's
him.
great.
Yeah.
But then Lobot attacks him, and Lando's first response is, Lobot, it's me, Lando, your ex-boss.
Hey, come on, it's your ex-boss.
It's me, your ex-boss. Please don't kill me. I was like, get him, Lobot, get him.
Hey, it's your landlord, Lando. So then there's a bunch of
Which
stormtroopers.
perfectly describes. You all know the Lando type if you've lived long enough, like entrepreneurs or this kind of people,
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
kind of thing, where he doesn't like get it, and he thinks that like that somehow ingratiates him. But we deal with a lot of his subordinates throughout this thing,
Yeah.
and then nobody fucking likes him.
I mean, again, like Alex was saying, he goes back, and the first thing he thinks of when he sees it's automated, he's like, I should have done this.
Yeah. I should have taken advantage
That's
of these people in
hilarious.
this way. So then he sees some stormtroopers in the city, and it freaks him out. And then we're on a chase, but we cut.
We got new stormtroopers. That was cool.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They're like bomb squad stormtroopers.
They have like a
look tight.
weird. They have like a weird ship that
Like a pit
kind of
helmet
looks
vibe.
kind
I
of
don't
looks like
know.
a TIE fighter, but it's not. Because there's a bomb threat on this. But we'll get to that in a minute. So we go back to Hujib planet Arbra.
Arbra.
Also, shout out to were way tamer with Arbra this whole like
Yes.
there still are some like pliff lines or whatever, and even he's like, that's Shira, huh? And you're like, you're a weird rabbit, dude.
It
Don't
does.
do
It
that.
does.
You're
end
not
up
that
feeling
guy.
Like you could imagine these things being like the Jim Henson workshop.
Yeah, but like they just don't really play much of a role after that first issue where they're like,
They do a few things.
It takes a while. They come back in full
Yeah,
force
they do
later
a
on,
few
but like,
things, yeah.
you're right. Every once in a
or
while,
that they go there all the time and they're not like, I'm in a boardroom meeting with you guys, also talking with.
No, absolutely.
dude just hangs out with Leia and says like one or two lines, like, "Damn, Shira,
Yeah. Whoo, shit.
I'd like
I
to
can
smooch
read
up on
minds.
that." Good luck, Luke.
She got an ass that won't quit.
So Leia shows up. We meet the new base. It's cool. It has like camouflage stormtroopers and like tent parts. It's neat. And she's looking for somebody to take her on a mission to check out this anomaly near the perimeter. And she asks Luke if he wants to go, but he's headed out with Shira Bree.
Yo, 'cause
And there's
Luke-
some
Sorry, dude, I'm busy
vibes.
this weekend with
Yeah.
Shira.
And she is so overly communicative about how much she's into Luke that it is like weird. But we're going back to what we're
Especially
talking about.
to Leia, she's like, "Oh, he's gonna have a good time." I'm
About
like, damn.
18
Dude, yeah, like
18-year-old
Leia's like, I
comic
bet
book
you
reader.
want to show him more than just whatever. And he's like, yep. She doesn't even like hide it. She's like, yes,
A confident
I'm gonna fuck
woman
him.
is so unbelievable for a comic book reader in 1982 that
She's so forward.
yeah, she's like, I'll take you there, Luke, if you know what I mean, and I mean sex.
By the way, Shira fans out there, look forward to more Shira.
yeah. Oh man,
She is huge in lore, and I did not realize it.
There's a lot. There's a lot. But
All right.
Yeah, don't worry.
Not a great like whatever. We'll
Don't
go
worry.
through it all.
Don't
No, no,
worry.
it's like, Davis, I mean this. No matter what you think,
It's not.
Shira is.
It's not what you
It's
think.
so totally way different. It's
I'm
crazy.
excited. Like, we'll just wait to talk about Shira when
Shira
we
is
reveal
like-
her backstory.
Shira's like a Vance level character. Like we're gonna see Shira
a
anyway.
lot.
Anyway, Bespin they're headed to Bespin because nobody heard from Lando, and Leia's like, "Fuck! Why does Luke have a hot piece? That's the downside."
Honestly,
of this.
at first I thought maybe she was just sad because Han's gone, and seeing Luke happy like made her think of Han. But the way these comics keep going, she clearly is just like, everyone's trying to. Does Luke got that good dick? What am I missing out on?
Male fantasy.
Yes,
shit.
it's
She's
totally
like,
male
I
fantasy.
want to be with that cool boy.
It's
too.
weird.
They occasionally though, like, but I'm in love with Han.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of
Luke. Yeah.
jealousy.
That's just
Yeah.
bro. They're just doing bro stuff because Han might read the comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Lando is chased in Cloud City, and the rest of the Imperials are there trying to disarm a bomb that was allegedly created by Ugnaught terrorists. And the bomb is like, "Hey, motherfuckers, this is how you do it. I'm a fucking guy from New York City, but I'm a bomb." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Why would I want to blow up? I'm a bomb. Like, if I blow up, I die. So let me help you." And they're like, "That makes sense."
It is very weird. It does sound like one of those comedy or comedians. Jesus Christ, from the 80s, like the fast talking, like, "Hey, what's this? What do you go?" Like they kind of insult people.
It really
and whatever.
does feel that way.
It's
yeah.
just
Like Ronnie Dangerfield, but a
so-
bomb.
yeah.
out of place.
It's so
Yeah.
weird. But then Lando rope-a-dopes some stormtroopers into the the Tabana, whatever it's called, the carbonite.
Yeah.
Chamber?
By the way,
Melger.
this entire scene, all I wrote down is Lando's hopping around Cloud City like a dude playing CS:GO.
Yeah.
Every scene, he's like
It's
jumping.
like Mirror's Edge. Yeah, he's like
crazy.
It really kind of looks like Mirror's Edge.
He's like swinging, like swashbuckling.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He's like pulling pipes out of the ground.
The
and swinging.
image you just showed us, dude looks like Batman.
Yeah.
They just took a Batman shot and made it Lando.
This is like the best-selling Marvel comic at the time. Like, it is superhero comics, basically.
Yeah.
Right? So then the stormtroopers try to disarm it, and they're like, "Wait a minute, this seems like we're arming it." And he's like, "Duh, dumbass!" Boom, and the whole thing blows up because the bomb was part of the terrorist plot. He was like, he was a trick, which is so funny, which makes Cloud City tilt and start to fall. And Lando goes over there and finds Treese, who's the head of the Imperial squadron that was supposed to disarm the bombs. And they decide to work together because
they have a
there's
Lando moment. They're
yeah.
stuck together, and the two of them are like, "Well, I guess we're friends now."
This is one of the beautiful parts about Lando, and he gets to really come alive here.
because he has charm up.
Yeah.
He's like
Yeah.
he's like a gamesman. They talk
bard,
about how
yeah.
he just the universe is puzzles and stuff, and he loves to just play them and see what happens. And he, unlike everybody else, is the most believable side switcher. Some people we'll never work with them. Lando is always well, hold on.
He just operates off
There's
vibes.
always
Yeah.
we can always strike a deal, and so it's not weird that he routinely is come here.
This is the exact
Let's
same.
both be buds here.
Yeah, it's the exact same vibe as that comic we read that was Lando, where the opening is him just "I just banged you, Imperial muff, and no one's gonna believe it." And
Yeah.
it's yeah, Lando. Lando's great.
So they work together to disarm the bombs, and Lando's like, "Let's get that Lobot. I have a plan."
Sure.
And he's like, "Please let me have a plan." And then Lando gets to the Lobot, and they go on a Terminator style chase, and they get to the part where it's a trap that Treese had laid for Lobot, and he walks right into it, and he gets him, and it's what is it like? It looks like pod racer shit. It looks like they lash him, right? It's something like that.
Yeah, they tie him up and yank out his motivator? Question
they
mark?
lift him into the air and pull his.
It looks like a Duracell battery.
Yeah, perfectly takes out the microchip.
Yeah.
like Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
And they disarm the bombs, and then Treese betrays Lando and throws him off the top of the fucking place. He's like, "Yeah, pretty good. See you later, loser." Whoa!
Yeah.
And, throws him, and Lando's like, "Ah." And then
The art of
something
him
weird
toppling
happens.
down just is some human target. It has that Man on the Run 70s poster vibe.
Yeah.
The art's great.
I don't want to say this and then make the whole thing about this, but the next one, it's Wizard of Oz vibes.
The next one is what I was talking about when I say that's not
Doesn't-
how
doesn't quite
gas
make
giants
sense, yeah.
work, guys.
Hello, Bespin. Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm oh, there's a planet
yeah.
of solidness somewhere.
That's where the
in
Ugnaughts
this-
are from, and the Ugnaughts have a fantastic news organization.
They're Ugnaught journalists that live on the surface of a
no
gas
sense.
giant.
They have film
In Munchkin
cameras, and if you think about 80s, 90s when you saw people being camera people and news people, they have that equipment.
It's literally like the American press that shot the JFK assassination, but it's
Ugnaughts.
Yeah, it's Ugnaughts. So Lando's falling, and he's like, Treese is a danger to the city, and I got to get him. So Lobot like does the math and realizes that he needs Lando, right?
They do a whole thing in this that's like RoboCop, where it's like, Lobot's like prime directive.
He's trying to like logic himself.
whatever, and so he's like, because like he's in danger, he's also the greatest hope of saving the city, so I have to like save him. So he like grabs a little jetpack thing and like jumps
straight up
off.
just breaks like an emergency jetpack thing, and the
Treese is also like, what the fuck? And like like sees him go off the edge. What? Oh, all right. What?
Isn't Lando like, man, I'm glad I had those installed? You're like, I guess if you're just floating, that would be your life preserver, but like, it would be weird that you wouldn't just wear those and that you hope somebody has to see you fall, breaks it in time, and then catches up to you.
Miles above the earth. You know, you never know. So they crash land in the swamps of the planet Bespin as a group of news reporting Ugnaughts prepare for the city to fall from the sky because they already know that the bombs are going to go off and they're expecting to see it fall from the sky. So they pull him out of the swamp and they're ready to kill him, but then the stormtroopers show up and they start to chase everyone down on the news van spaceship thing that they're on. And so Lando's like, I'm going to help you. And they're like, okay. And they like get out of there. And then they take Lando and Lobot back to their capital and they're like, hey, you're the old leader of Cloud City, right? Death penalty. And they're like, what the fuck? So that is like a cliffhanger for a minute. And then they're back up in Cloud City and Treese is there and he notices that Luke and Shira arrive and that R2-D2 is with them. And they head to the central computer to figure out what happened and why Cloud City is empty and what happened to Lando. And they get there and Treese has already kind of like set a trap for them. And there's blaster fire. And Treese recognizes him as the guy that Darth Vader's looking for. So he's like, I am good. This is all coming up Millhouse for me. I'm gonna work this whole shit. I'm gonna get this motherfucker. This is gonna rule. And then we go back down to the Ugnaught city and we meet King Oz. There's a Wizard of Oz thing going on. I'm just saying. And they say, we hate Cloud City, and you're the leader because the Empire is there now, and they're taking advantage of us.
Yeah, their whole...
It doesn't really make sense why they're mad at him.
Because they were like, we had a really good thing when you were in charge. Like, we got free time. Like, he was like, you're the perfect boss. But now the Empire came in and took over, and it sucks. So you're
in trouble now. Yeah, I don't really understand. I guess they were doing that so that he would help them. I'm not really sure.
Sure.
But now the Ugnaughts are basically like wage slaves. And Cloud City's basically like using the Ugnaughts for slave labor. And Lando's like, slaves? Fuck no. And he like gives like a little speech.
The line he says after learning slaves is my favorite line Lando has ever said. He goes, King, you've just lost yourself an enemy and gained the meanest, maddest friend you've ever had. And I was like, let's go, Lando.
Yeah, fucking crazy. So
Lando rules in this.
Stormtroopers are showing up, and Luke and Shira are pinned down, and then Lando shows up with the Ugnaught squad, the journalist squad, and he's like, I'm going to have Lobot rearm all the bombs because Lobot can move the bombs without touching them or something.
Dude, there's a whole thing here that,
Lobot basically has like Robo-Force.
Yeah, let me...
That's right, yeah.
He even says it's
Cyborgs have certain abilities the rest of us lack. For instance, they can focus energy to manipulate objects without actually touching them. With luck, the Lobot should be able to use that power to get past any safeguard mechanisms and detach the bomb's primer circuits. The picture of him doing it looks like
Professor X.
Cerebro or something.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
But the thing that it's like, this was like very weird. And at first I was like, what the fuck? But I'm trying to just be like more accepting of things that immediately I'm like, that's not Star Wars. And being like, okay, they go out of their way to be like, this universe is run on energy that exists between living creatures and you can manipulate it. So I'm like, okay, a cyborg or like an android, like part human, part robot, it's not a huge stretch to be like, why can't they manipulate energy but like of robots?
Robo energy, right?
Which is just not
that
exactly
cool.
how
Not
electronics
that cool.
work, but
Yeah.
also kind of being how electronics
neat
work.
If I didn't know, like it's cool. Like if I was like insane clown posse vibes, like I'd be into it. You know, they're not like clear on magnets or anything.
Sure, like how do they work?
Yeah, like I then can see how that would be cool, but
I guess
in
they just don't have
2020
the same kind of printed circuit boards that we
I don't
use
know.
for all of our stuff.
I really don't know. But it's really weird. But that's a thing. But they mention it out loud because later. So Luke and Shira are pinned down, and then Lando shows up with the Ugnaught news team, and the bomb thing happens. And then Treese is like, "Oh, so Lobot," and then he just shoots Lobot in the face because obviously now they don't have the guy that can do the thing that they just said.
Rip King.
But then Luke's like, wait a minute, though. Move things without seeing them. That reminds me of my own thing, the Force, that I have, that I'm going to do. And so he uses the Force to do it. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like he blows up all the bombs. So the Imperials are like, fuck, we got to get out of here.
Cloud City falls from the sky.
Yeah. And they're like, oh my God. And Lando's like, what the fuck, man? This is my Cloud City. And Luke's like, bitch, I just blew the primers. You're good. I didn't even do anything. I just scared them off.
It's just wild because the primers blew holes. They also pointed out like it blew holes in the sides. If you looked at the picture of it, you're like, that's going down.
Lando was like, I'm going to kill you.
But he's like, yeah, I blew the primers, and he's like, the auto repair, it was like only surface level damage, and apparently it has like repair droids that he was like, it's already fixed.
Yeah. He's like, it's already being worked on, you bitch. And then him and Shira are like, who's going to punch him first? And that's like a fun little Mega Man cartoon style punchline. Literally a
Excuse
punchline.
me, princess.
Literal and actual punchline. And then
Punchline came from?
I don't think so. I don't think it was from this issue of Star Wars Marvel.
No,
it a
but I'm
Punch
just
and
saying
Judy
the idea
thing?
of like,
I think it just is a line that hits.
huh? Pretty impressive, right?
Oh, maybe Punch and Judy. That's
maybe
pretty
Punch
good.
and Judy?
I'll buy that.
Like a punch, or it could be we punched it up.
I'll buy that for 1 shilling.
Haha.
Yeah. Okay, so the Cloud City people are hyped because the Empire's gone. Lando's like, I like somehow recorded and wrote a bad book report about Treese to Darth Vader, so now he's like in trouble because the Empire thinks that Cloud City actually did fall and explode and crash into the ground. And they're like, all right, bye.
And didn't he like leave it to the Ugnaughts?
Yeah. And they're just, it's like a Tibanna gas utopia now.
And according to this, in that last scene in the vision, or whatever the version was that they released in the 90s, when it flies by Cloud City, cheering Ugnaughts. All Ugnaughts.
Yeah. Yeah. All those people.
They're so thrilled.
Everyone. And way
Honestly,
down
though,
below on the
now
surface.
you know because they love Lando and he was there. He was
Yeah.
instrumental.
It's ironic that his name is Lando because
Also,
it's a gas giant.
also,
Get the fuck out of here.
also, like not only does
Maybe
he
it's
steals,
Land Zero, you know? Maybe that's what it means. Land Zero, Cloud City, Lando.
I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of people, but especially Lando, is rocking not just the clothes before. Now he has his own clothes. He has Han's pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says shit like, hold on, I'll be right there. Let me get my cape and then we'll be out of here. He just like says shit like that all the time.
The man knows what he is, and I'm here for it.
He came online and he's so good.
Yeah.
And the more that he is alone, the better it he works great when he gets to fucking schmooze and do his own things, and it's like there's just less of it when he's got
Sure.
other people there. But it's still kind of fun.
And in an era where Han is gone, it's fucking genius writing that he used to have the Falcon. So he's intimately familiar with it and can talk to Chewbacca about it and do all the shit that Han does. And he's not just a clone of Han.
It's like they actually replaced him with a similar archetype but different. That's
He's like
interesting and
Wolfwood.
unique.
He rules.
He's like I'm assuming the guy from X-Files that came in and took
Doggett?
over. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Don't you use that guy as an example a lot?
I like Doggett more.
I don't have the context for this. That just felt like that thing.
Yeah. Robert Patrick, good guy.
Sure.
Good actor.
Just as good.
It does have
Not
the vibe
just
of
as good.
if there's scoundrels, Han is the one with the heart of gold who will drop his shipment to save a friend or whatever. And Lando's like, I will figure out a way to keep that shipment.
Yeah,
Same guy, but
how good a friend is
how
this
can I
guy?
make this
Yeah.
money? Yeah.
Yeah. Star Wars 58, sundown. Lando and Chewbacca head out from Arbra to meet with a rebel contact, and Leia's talking to 3PO about the fact that they're gonna fucking hide the fleet inside of the sun somehow.
Leia's still upset.
Yeah,
about Shira.
feeling hard about Shira and just closing off her heart. She's
This is
getting
multiple
the icy
issues.
vibes.
She's just like, that Shira girl, what's going on?
Also, this concept, which they say is standard, hiding your fleet in a star is standard operating procedure. Which is
crazy.
insane, but also then weird that in the beginning they're like, she's got this crazy plan.
I have no idea if
We're gonna taxi on the runway? No way.
I don't know.
I mean, but like speaking of the crazy, there is a full page, multiple panels dedicated to the plan, and one of the wildest illustrations I've ever seen, where it's like bright pink,
It
and it's
uses like a
it's
grid
a pyramid,
of-
and you can.
It uses like a grid of generators that make like a triangle around the fleet, and then the fleet like
A
goes
full
down.
fleet. How big that would have to
Yeah,
be,
and then it
is
goes into the
insane.
sun. But they just do it, and it just happens right away after they mention
Hopefully, it won't short circuit or anything.
it. Yeah,
That'd
and
be
it works
crazy.
out. But apparently, there's like a booster on the top because if that goes away, it like flings the entire fleet off into space, which is crazy. So they just do it, and Leia and the other rebels don't stay behind because
Yeah, the idea is like they're gonna just have like a skeleton crew that just keeps them maintenanced, and then otherwise they
yeah,
can-
it's like they're literally hiding them and like setting them and forgetting them. And then R2D2 gets a reading that part of the shield is malfunctioning and might explode. So C-3PO is like, oh shit, we got to tell them. And then he misses the shuttle. So now the guy who knows is like stuck over here, and everybody else is over here. And then an explosion like triggers a gas leak that knocks everybody out.
It's up to 3PO.
Yeah,
it's
so
a 3PO.
It's one of
issue.
those. He's like, oh my, and it's like that kind of thing. And
I
then
have to save the fleet.
on the Falcon, Chewie is waiting for Lando because they're playing Nova Crown. Luke and Lando are playing Nova Crown like at the table, and Chewie's like still flying the ship, and so they're like, "Hey, when are we gonna switch off?" Because Chewie wants to like stop driving the ship, and he's like, just let us finish the game." And then Chewie like moves the ship and like throws their entire game board away.
The idea that he just like banks hard right in hyperspace is like wild to me.
Yeah.
But he did it.
Super funny. And then C-3PO gets through to Leia and tells them that the shield is
So
malfunctioning.
it's a holographic board usually.
Yeah, I don't know.
It just looks like a chessboard in
yeah.
the comic.
Yeah,
No,
weird.
I know it was. I'm just like
It's like Monopoly shit.
it's weird that they like went through
Yeah,
the whole thing of showing that, and then they're like,
Lando likes the physical games.
Yeah,
he likes to be able to touch it.
Han
Tech,
put
you're
that
right,
table in.
he's
and
like, you can't
it
hide
disrupted the whole vibe.
a hologram up your fucking sleeve.
Right, right,
It
right.
messed up the whole vibe of the room, and Lando's just going back to basics.
Right.
He's
So-
an analog guy.
Yeah, he loves that type of shit. He's a weirdo like that. Call him crazy, but it works for him. But Rebel Fleet, C-3PO's there. He gets through to Leia on the shuttle, and he's like, this is going bad. But the shuttle is also stuck because there's TIE fighters now coming after the shuttle. And the Rebels, like, that whole situation could, like, somehow mess up the whole fleet getting destroyed now. So now they're in a real pickle.
Yeah, the big fear is that the whole Rebel fleet will be destroyed.
Yeah. And
Which is a very real fear when you're hiding them in
In a
a
sun.
fucking
In the sun.
star.
Yeah, it's wild.
So then the Falcon shows up at a station called Bazaar, and outside the Corona, the TIE fighters disappear or like go away, and R2 and 3PO are like, "Phew, that was close." And then they get jetpacks to fly through the pyramid and link the generators together by hand in space.
I want to know how the heat inside that pyramid works.
I have
Because
no
clearly
idea.
there must be none. Because
It's like just generating a field. Like
But they were saying it can't stand up to it, so it has to go down to a layer where it's not as hot. So it's like strange situation.
Oh, yeah. They were just like sciencing it, but like I don't think they had the
I don't think they know science.
knowledge to do it.
But the jetpacks start melting because of how hot it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
3PO's good, though.
Yeah, but 3PO's fine. I don't know what's going on. But they're so at Bazaar, the Falcon docks, and they're looking for somebody to sell them the stuff they need. And all of a sudden, they get jumped by like people with guns. And then they try to get on the shuttle, but it's too late. Leia and the other rebels are now like watching their shields run out inside the sun, and they think that the shields are already destroyed.
Dude,
she literally is just like, I guess we'll have to find another fleet.
dude, Leia like has a like
Yeah, she has to like
she's
process.
I've ruined I like lost
the rebellion
whole
is
fleet. She
dead,
like
yeah.
has like a look that's like I fucked us.
She's like, the rebellion is finished. So she's like, I'll start rebuilding, and then C-3PO's like, it's all good. It's like kind of like a replay of the trash compactor scene.
Yeah,
kind
where
of
like
vibe.
you think it's over, and then it's like no,
and it's
we're
all good.
fine.
And Leia's like, holy shit, thank fuck. Forget about this message I was about to like send to Luke where I was gonna like basically just have a meltdown. And then he's like, actually, I don't know where they are. They're gone. And she's like, what?
It's a bizarre situation.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. How bizarre. And then the next issue is called How Bizarre. How Bizarre. No, it's not. It's just called Bizarre. But on the station...
Somewhere there's like a 90s kid who loved that reference. Like,
Bazaar is a great pun as a pun lover.
It's not really a pun because it's just... They
bizarre.
called it a
It's
Bazaar.
like it's a bizarre.
But it is a bizarre, yeah.
Oh, okay. Like Diagon Alley vibes.
It's literally run by King Candy, dude.
Okay, fair enough.
Like
That's fair. That's
it's
fair.
very bizarre.
That's fair. So it's like a marketplace space station.
Let me read you the intro because I love these.
It's like Grand Central Market.
Bazaar.
Yeah.
A floating market in space where anything may be bought, bartered, or sold. And it's here where Lando Calrissian and Luke Skywalker have come on a mission for the Rebel Alliance, only to discover that Bazaar's special of the day appears to be death at bargain prices.
Bargain prices is so bad.
Death at bargain price. They all have like a great zinger.
Yeah, it's like some Rod Serling shit.
Also, every alien in Bazaar, this is one of my favorite issues for alien designs.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got walrus people, they got
like
bug-eye
Mos Eisley
guys.
vibes, yeah.
It's amazing.
So then they meet their escort, Ferret, who's like their like fixer on this world. His name is just straight up the same as the animal, Ferret.
King Candy, dude.
And he's a salesman, and they have private security, and they're gonna like go to his like office or whatever.
Sure.
And he tells them that their cargo, which is 4 TIE fighters, is good to go. They're hidden in like a pile of junk.
Who knew the 4 TIE Fighter cargo would be like the whole thing for the next few issues?
This is the fucking, like, I was like, whoa, we're getting like real longer arcs.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought this was just like get 4 TIE Fighters. No, it's huge.
And so the plan is that it's like heavily implied that he's going to try and like kill them and take their money.
It's not even heavily implied. He's like, and once they're whatever, I'm going to kill them.
I'm going to kill
And
you
then,
guys.
but then like the door opens and it's like, oh, and by the way, let me introduce you to our friend Chewbacca. And he's like, Wookiee? And like that's the situation. And he's like, yeah, just don't let him rip your arms off or anything because when you cheat us, that's what happens. And he's like, no. And so they
Yeah, it's like, if we don't report back and whatever, kill them.
So they go to the like junk pile planet thing, and they find the TIE fighters, which are under a cloaking device. But there's like this huge worm thing that comes out, this big pink worm thing, and guns don't do anything to it.
Right.
But Luke like
Thing
slices.
is sick and huge.
It's like a
and-
Dark Souls boss, and Luke like slices it open with his lightsaber, and they try to run.
It's crazy because here we have a creature that blasters are ineffective against, but luckily the lightsaber is.
Yeah.
This is not the 900th, like, oh, the blasters don't work, and like, oh my gosh, surprise,
Just
the
wait-
lightsaber does.
just
Like,
wait until the
lead
new
with the
Jedi
fucking
Order.
saber.
When we get to the new Jedi Order, you're going to be the happiest guy in the entire world.
It's just every time they play it the same way, we're like, oh no. And I guess if you're not Luke Skywalker, it makes sense where you're like, my weapon, but like, come on.
It's
We know he's going to bust out
Spider-Man-
his hero weapon and kill it.
Yeah, but Spider-Man sure does swing around a lot. You know, like it's just that. It's just that's what his lightsaber does is cut through stuff. Like, you know, they're just
Yeah, but he's like, they're
gassing
never
him
like,
up.
oh no, there's no way to get from the top of this building to the top of that building.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Oh,
No,
Spider-Man.
No, they definitely do. This is we're still in that era where they just narrate out loud the stuff that they're doing.
All right.
Oh my, so
All the time.
much.
But so
Yeah.
they're blocked off by the worm, and then there's a sound from the cave that's nearby, and Luke and Lando go into the cave, and it's just in time because the worm crashes into the entrance of the cave, and they because they were in there, they don't get hurt, and they meet these people that live underground that are like hobos that are trapped by the beast and are like ferrets, like slaves, basically. I don't even know. Like there's prisoners.
Yeah, but then they like made their own society.
Yeah, because they can't leave, but like Ferret like controls the worm and keeps them there, I guess.
they're not his like slaves in that I don't even think that he knows they're alive. It's just they're stuck where the worm is, so they like.
Just made a little.
Yeah.
Life.
Also, they have a whole sub thing, right, where they're like, they don't want to be part of. They like want to live in this trash planet and like make a living there. Isn't that one of the things that they have, like a whole community that they've like built and are just trying to like live in peace?
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing, but it's like also like they're like, we are stuck under the thumb of this guy because he just has this worm that he can like turn on and off at any
Yeah,
time.
I think they were there first, though, right?
I don't remember.
it's
whatever.
it's the
They're not
exact-
important after this issue.
Yeah, like this is just for a big worm fight.
It's a big Marvel trope.
Yeah.
This entire issue is like city where there's a bunch of rich people and then a trash planet and then people who live in the trash.
Yeah, this is like very, very like typical issue of this comic series at issue number 56 or whatever we're on. So Ferret distracts and tricks Chewbacca into like being frozen into a crystal that he can like move around inside of still, but he's like stuck inside of a crystal. And Luke and Lando decide to bury the worm, and they sneak out of a cave exit, and Lando like fires his gun at this thing that causes the garbage to fall, but it doesn't really work because the worm is like a trash tunneling worm. And so that sucks. And then we're back in Ferret's chamber, and he tells Chewie his whole plan, and he tells him he's going to sell him into slavery. And then Chewie just punches through the crystal, and he's
don't
like,
do that to
"Oh
Chewie."
shit!" And it's so funny that he put him in a thing where he could just still move around. And then Lando's fighting the worm, and the hobos run away, and Luke like runs for the ship, and Lando has the gun, but he gets attacked by the worm thing, and then he's like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna shoot it one last time. There's nothing else to do. And then the worm goes down, and he's like, oh shit, I'm the fucking best. I did it. And then Luke's like, oh, I found the switch, and he's like, oh, that's cool.
It does. It's like a great little like last stand like for Lando, and then his like face, and he's like, holy shit, I'm like a fucking hero.
Yeah.
I've made a 1 million shot. And
did
they're
it.
just like, no, we got it. He's like,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
By the way,
That's okay.
The faces in these issues
You know when he retells the story, though.
are pure meme worthy. There's so many amazing face illustrations across all of these issues that are hilarious. And it's just a lot of time it's that shocked or like dude just been like, whoa. Really well
It
done.
is like when they anime overly like a thing. It's so good. Actually, I say Lando is best alone. He is surprisingly delicious with Luke because Luke is just the fucking hero.
Yeah.
And
like a
he's
Mark
just
to Lando,
having
yeah.
very like human reactions, but in a different way than like Han does in a very like
Lando uses him as like a heavy.
Han kind of like doesn't give a shit. And Lando very much wants to live and have like a opulent life.
Yeah.
So his reactions are way less chill than he tries to give off.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
great.
So Chewie chases Ferret to like his escape hangar, and Chewie like builds his bowcaster and like shoots the ship down, which, all right,
Yo, bowcasters, I'll allow it.
just blows that thing away.
He has explosive cartridges.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I accept it. It looked awesome, and the shot of Chewie like aiming his blaster from the side looked awesome.
cock it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just way better than when he like picks up an entire turret and throws it hundreds of feet, and you're like,
Fuck yeah.
not like this.
Fuck yeah, Chewie. Chewie can do anything. And then
He
Ferret
can make anything.
yeah, he
All I
can't-
can think about is the darkness. We'll get there, but that's
Dude.
my favorite scene in the entire series.
dude. All right, so Ferret crawls out of the wreckage. Lando and Luke show up, and they're like, "Hey, bitch, we got your fucking TIE fighters anyway, so stay in the trash hole or whatever." And then they go back to Arbra, and they all meet each other again. It's all good. And that's number 59. Number 60 is Shira's story, which is hilarious because it turns out maybe this isn't her story.
It's a story.
Spoiler,
It's a
it's-
story of
They've-
Shira's.
They've already like, if you're paying attention, heavily implied she's.
They telegraph that she's
a
bad.
person said at some point like our contact on Arbra, and they give her like a couple very Disney villain coded face looks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
She's very sly.
If you've been reading every issue, you know for sure this girl's going to turn evil, but it's actually crazy how they do this. So, because I thought this was kind of a neat story, like if I didn't read between the lines and see it. So, the TIE fighters start a bombing run on a Imperial facility. So
they're like, TIE fighters?
They're freaking
What?
out because the TIE fighters are shooting.
sick.
It was cool.
This is like they
so
just
they-
like
yeah.
took it out and murdered
They
people.
decide that it's probably that they're being attacked by Darth Vader, who's mad at them, and so they try
Are you
to
mad
run,
at me?
So
Vader,
they-
are you mad?
So they try to like run and hide underground, and when they figure out that they're not going to be able to get underground, they literally surrender. But then they see that it's rebels, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And so
It is. I forgot. It's hilarious that they were like, "Fucking Vader's pissed."
yeah,
But like that's their first thought. But I guess
they're like relieved. One of the guys is like relieved that it's not Vader, which is funny.
because like they're like we can.
It's probably way worse.
Yeah. So it loads so these guys go on a prisoner carrier, and Luke sends a pilot to find the coordinates for the Armada. And Shira hugs Luke, and they find the report with the coordinates, and they go back to Arbra.
By the way, 4 TIE fighters, 4 pilots. The crew that operates these are Shira, Luke, and 2 dudes who look like they have a podcast.
Yeah.
It's one of the funniest looking like extras.
He looks like young Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, and then the other guy's just like the bald dude who's around.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's literally like there's one scene where he's like firing a gun, and it just literally looks like Steven Spielberg firing a gun.
I feel like they had the bald guy in there because they're like, let's just make it easy to draw. Like, not too many features.
I
like,
think they're cool. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. So Luke and Shira meet up with Leia, who's like, good job. It's going to take some time to get the report decoded, but we're going to get an attack together. And then Shira's like, can I get the coordinates for the base? And Leia's like, no, that's a huge security risk. And so Luke's like, you know what? Then I'll go with her, and then I'll take her back because I know the coordinates, and then she doesn't have to know them. And it's like, okay. So then the Imperial Armada is...
oh, because she also was like, I'm going to go. I have to go do this thing. And if...
yeah, and Luke's
I'll
like...
just quit the rebellion if you like...
yeah,
I'll
I'll leave regardless.
Davis,
Which
I
is
know
like hilarious because you'd be like, put her in the brig. Like, you...
Yeah.
like.
I know you have the issues. The face Luke makes when he's like, I'll go with you, is... if you looked up like the simpiest face in the history of dudes trying to get laid,
it's exactly what it is.
so funny. That man is just like,
That is exactly what it is.
It's wild. Luke is horned up.
Literally. So the Armada...
When the excitement of just getting off Tatooine and being a pilot starts to fade, you gotta find your jollies elsewhere.
sex.
And sadly, Jolly isn't around anymore because of the thought of a kiss.
She went insane.
But Shira,
she stared
Shira
into the void,
both
and the void
resembles her in visually and in the amount of like depth that they have given to
I
her
love that it's just
characterization.
another chick in a flight suit, just like
with
Luke.
like that. Was that haircut the like? This girl's a loose lady.
maybe like a
or,
femme fatale haircut. I don't know.
I don't know. But I will say, redheads in this universe are just
Every woman is
trouble.
redhead. Yeah.
Like every redhead, you're like, go, watch out
Dangerous
for her.
redhead. Yeah. So the Armada's floating on the edge of space with Admiral Geel, who's out there in space, and he's arguing over
Dude, were you excited to finally get an Imperial villain that like
what's kind of
Was
complicated.
around for a
around
while?
for more than one issue. Loved it. Although I don't know if he's competent. I'm not sure what
He's really gassing up his own fleet, is what he's doing. in
He's
this
straight
scene.
up just the guy who's like,
He's like, let them come. I'll fuck.
he looks like what's his face who played the Penguin might like.
Oh
play him.
yeah.
Colin Farrell.
Colin
Like
Farrell
Colin
in the
Farrell with
makeup.
like prosthetic up to play this.
Like literally the guy that he looks like when he is the Penguin.
Yes.
yeah.
So he's like, it would be suicide for them to attack us. And so
They have a giant armada. It's a cool looking armada, admittedly.
Yeah,
Pretty neat.
it's
It's
true.
a different type of I don't know if it's a Superstar Destroyer, but he's got like his
It's
own
the biggest armada ever, regardless of what ships are in it. But there's like a bunch of crazy Imperial ships there that
Yeah.
nobody ever sees, and they're not exactly the ones that are in the book or whatever.
kind of like a bootleg interdictors there.
Yeah,
He's got a whole
exactly.
thing.
But it looks sick, and it's supposedly the biggest fleet there ever was until the Rise of Skywalker, obviously. And then, which was every spaceship, and then. We get to Shalvain, which is Shira's homeworld, according to Shira, which is absolutely destroyed. And they go to this like busted up city, and somebody's watching them from a distance, and they're going to this altar. And Luke's like, "I'll go up to the altar with you," and she's like, "I got to go to the altar alone." And she like prays, and she like cuts her hand like Blood Brothers style. And Luke's like, "No!" And she puts the blood like onto the altar, and it's a very like nice
And then
ceremony.
The vampire god.
Actually, what it is
resurrected.
is
And it's a blood tornado.
it's actually Gundarks that are coming and attack them.
Not the John Carter of Mars aliens?
They basically look like a mix between Geonosis guys and like dogs.
By the way, the story she tells about like I come and I cut myself and leave the blood here as like the symbolism of everyone who died.
Yeah,
That's John Carter of Mars, guys.
They're
Yeah.
just like if the thing didn't have any muscle. I don't know, like
yeah, they look like ants that are dudes. They're like if dudes just were ants.
But again, it does have like a Geonosis yeah.
yeah, they're just like ant.
they're
guys.
like like yeah.
But they're Gundarks, and they're throwing bombs and laying down suppressive fire. And she's shocked that there's any Gundarks there. And she tells the story of when she was a kid and her tribe was there, and the Gundarks came and they made a peace agreement with them. And then one day when her tribe went to pray at the altar, the Imperials attacked, and it turned out that her parents died and the tribe was wiped out.
She has a mission of vengeance.
Yeah, and they escaped in the sewers. And she found out that the Gundarks told the Empire everything and like sold them out to the Empire, and that's why her parents were killed. And so she has like this vendetta against them, and that's why she joined the rebellion. And
Apparently, she, according to her story, she's like, I had to make do. Traveled around the galaxy, just whoring it up. Slept with the right guy, and now I joined I'm like, Jesus.
they're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, life's hard on the Outer Rim.
I guess so. And so they keep attacking, and Luke has R2 scan for the sewers that she was like, maybe that wasn't a pointless story. I'd love to like have you look for those sewer systems, R2. And so they find them, and then Shira jumps down, and the entrance caves in behind her, and Luke thinks she's dead. So he's like, I'll deal with the Gundarks, and I'm going to fight. I'm going to die here. And this is all for Shira.
Dude, this is sick. Like, a lot of these comics, it seems like they're about to die. But the writing on these, even with Lando, like, they've learned how to, like, make the stakes feel kind of, like, real. So they have, like, them all, like, firing and, like, attacking these guys. And then when it's, like, they're overwhelmed, Luke has this, like, sick shot at him being like, well, fuck it. He, like, pulls out his lightsaber. Like, I'm going to take some with him. And it's, like, him about to just death charge into this whole group.
But
you're
amazingly,
like, I like got hype. I was like, fuck. I mean, I know you live, but like,
yeah, amazingly, what happened somehow is that Shira crawled all the way out of the tunnel and got in an X-wing and came back around and blew them all up, which was so
thank
weird.
God nobody can hear the very loud ships that you have an iconic sound.
Maybe she turned off
so
the
they, like,
engines.
last minute.
Maybe it was just gliding for like 5 miles. Maybe she. I don't have an explanation for you. I'm making this up as I go.
Here's what I'll say, though.
It's
We here can all identify the sound of a TIE fighter. What does an X-Wing sound like?
Oh.
It's like.
Like, what does an X-Wing sound?
It's
TIE
like
fighter, we know.
Isn't it just like a vacuum cleaner sound? Like
It sounds
just the sound of
like
an
it sounds
engine?
like my dog like crying when he wants to go outside. He's like,
Like a TIE fighter goes, or you like hear it, the noise. But X-Wing, I just don't
the
know what that
X-wing
sounds
sound
like.
is the laser gun from the X-wing.
I genuinely don't
that
know.
has the familiar that like
Maybe like the like the I don't
laser
know.
sound.
No,
but
that's
yeah.
the
No, it's
fire,
got like
though.
a fuck. I'm not good at describing it, but I can like hear it in my
vacuum
head.
cleaner is very close.
It
I agree with
whines.
you on that.
It whines. The X.
And it's like a vacuum cleaner that also then has something a little bit metallic in it because there's
in
like
it? Yeah.
But the fucking TIE fighters are like
Yeah, you would hear like that's a sound you hear even in Andor. They hear it miles away, and they're like, "Hide the guns." X-wing, I don't know if it's as intimidating or weird sounding.
So they leave her planet and they go back to Arbra, and then we're in 61, Screams in the Void. And Shira makes captain at the base and gets a medal for saving everybody.
Oh, hey, cover of this issue, fire.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the shot of the TIE fighter, but it's also inside the cockpit.
It
but
looks
it's
like a movie poster, yeah.
So cool.
Really cool one. This issue 61, if you want to look it up. She gets captain, she gets a medal, and the hall's cheering, and Leia reaches out to Luke, but he gets distracted by Shira, and she's like, never mind.
He just straight ditches her.
Yeah.
She's like, Luke, I need to talk to you. And he's like, hold on, I gotta go flirt with this girl. And then Leia has her like,
She goes like, does the Wolverine like with the picture on the bed vibe, but it's
Yes.
Han Solo. And it's a hologram of Han Solo, and she talks to him, and she's like, I don't know why I'm jealous of Luke. And then 3PO's like, guess what? And she's like, what, 3PO? And she's like, she tells C-3PO, I was just planning the next attack, and she leaves. She like lies to him, and then like the photo like turns off.
yeah. Also, during this scene, they just do the whole like Leia's undressing, and she.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a different vibe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about it being just a little aged up in
Yeah.
general. And then the Imperial Armada goes to the capital, and Admiral Geel is like, we got to get this because this is going to be like my legendary thing. I have this thing called the Teasel. Or
The Screamer.
It's the Screamer, if you want to know what it's called. And it's like a life form that's like a big giant space jellyfish or something that has no consciousness or anything, but it can like communicate with anything over any distance.
I guess the plan is it's the new comm system for the entire empire.
Yeah.
it's like their 5G or 6G.
Yeah,
or whatever
But
the
it's like,
fuck we're on
like
now.
the mushroom network of Earth, but it's like a space. I don't even know. It's like
It'll be faster communications. That's
it's
how
like
they
you
beat
can
the
just
rebels.
immediately communicate across.
it's
the
like
galaxy.
a crazy psychedelic floating entity that floats in like a containment field. And Shira and Luke are getting ready to go attack the Armada, and he does a check with the flight engineer, who's like saying that the TIE fighters are set with all the codes that they need to be recognized.
Yep.
And he also says that they have this stupid thing with their lasers that they set up where they can fire 6 shots, and then the last shot after that is like one big shot that empties the laser batteries, which is super weird. But the point
like
is,
a fucking Destiny unique or exotic weapon.
the
or something
point is,
where
it's supposed
like,
to be able to break through the shields, but I don't know.
It's like because they don't. I guess they haven't established that whether or not TIE fighters have like proton bombs or whatever.
Right.
They're like, it's a super laser that is a bomb.
But it also, it's a thing that shows up in a lot of the TIE Fighter X-Wing games later.
totally
where
do
it's
this, yeah.
You can just change the settings on your lasers. I'm like, all right.
And it drains your battery faster. Yeah.
That is like particularly Star Trek-y, where it's like diverting power to like increase laser intensity, but
It is 100% the thing that happens in those games. Yeah, they keep doing it.
Yeah. And then so this is where Shira's like, well, and in case we fucking die, let's kiss.
Smooch.
So they kiss on screen, which is crazy. And then the Imperial Armada gets a distress signal, and the stormtrooper that's in the TIE fighter swoops down to check it out, and he sees the TIE fighter there that's like crashed, and up it's a trap, and they blow up the ship, and he gets out, and they ambush him, and Chewbacca interrogates him the old-fashioned way.
I've never seen a stormtrooper's mask look scared.
Yeah.
The way they animated
He
it,
was
he's like,
like,
ooh, but it's just the
Yeah.
mask. Hilarious.
He looked like my old dog Wallace, like looking at me. And then the Rebel TIE fighters show up and give the squadron code and start to attack. And they're like attacking the Star Destroyers and stuff, and they can't really figure out what's happening at first. And nobody knows who to shoot at. And so then Teasel scrambles all communication except on the official channel, so there's no way for the TIE fighters to.
But also shuts down the transponders
Yeah.
on the Rebel ships.
Yeah, there's no other channel for anybody to talk to each other on besides the official channel, so they can't talk to each other. And Luke is trying to figure out whether this TIE fighter that's in between him and his goal is like a bad guy or a good guy. So he reaches out with the Force, and
The fact that the Force is like, bless that.
yeah,
Do it.
Yeah, and he blows up the TIE fighter, and it's all good. And it releases Teasel, and Luke escapes, and he gets back to Arbra. And when he gets back, everybody's hyped, but like C-3PO and stuff.
Actually, like nobody's hype. Isn't he like, let's fucking celebrate?
Like the
And
vibe,
everyone's like,
the vibe when he leaves is like, it's great. We're gonna go have a party, and when he gets
Oh.
there, C-3PO's like, "Hey, can you come with me to talk to Leia real quick?" And then she's like, "You killed Shira," and he's like, "No!" And that's the cliffhanger for this one.
Yep.
I remember it being like Luke with a beer bottle sitting on the corner of his bed, but it wasn't that. But it was like it had that vibe.
yeah.
Then we get to issue 62, which is called Pariah, in which Luke becomes a pariah. And so Leia is like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't worry, I'm going to like play it up and you're going to be clean. And this isn't going to touch anybody but me. And this is my burden to bear. And if this fucked up my whole life, I don't give a shit.
I
I'm gonna live with
love that the conceit of Luke's arc here is like, the Force told me to do that.
Yeah.
Why did it do that?
And everybody's like hearing that part of it too. And so they think he's crazy and like they won't serve him food in the cafeteria and he has to go eat in his quarters and he gets stripped
Just
of his
random
commander
dudes
rank.
beat the crap out of Luke.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like after this arc like ended, I was like, a really interesting concept. He's already been questioning things with whatever, and like learning to just work on instinct is like, you can't like really force the Force. Like that's the bit. You have to like
Right.
fall into it in the right way. And so yeah, that he would be like, I was so sure. Like this thing that's like been helping me told me that it wasn't there is cool. The weirdest thing is like friendly fire is so common
Right.
in war that like the guy that saved the Alliance, what issue were we on? 61 times at least, blew up everything, that they're like, oh my God, you're like, people go out to die to achieve the mission all the time. It was really forced that everybody treated him like shit here.
I think the setup they had here was that it might have been the previous issue where they were like, everybody loves Shira. She is awesome.
Yeah, they like she like saved the three of them, and then everyone's like, "That's Shira. She's the best."
Yeah, and
But
so
it's
I
like,
guess
all right,
that's why they hate him. I don't know, but you're right.
Sure,
It's
they like that's
wild.
what they give you here, but it's like,
So 3PO's like, hey, I kind of have some rumors about Boba Fett, and Luke's like, I don't give a fuck. I gotta go figure this shit out.
The fact that he goes to Lando, and Lando's like, "Look, my man, you're cool and all, but I can't talk to you."
Yeah,
I'm
he's like, I
"Damn."
can't talk to you, but I'm gonna disappear for 15 minutes if you want to steal
He's
my
like, 15
spaceship."
minutes? It's like 15 minutes. He's like,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, that's the kind of shit where you're like, the people that you've been on adventures on aren't even like, hey, what happened? I don't know. Lando friendly fired through his actions tons of people. Like, it's just insane.
So he's like, I'm out of here. Steal my ship if you want. And then like some guy's like, wait, what are you doing? You're not supposed to fly out of here. And then Chewbacca shows up out of nowhere and donks that guy. And then he's like, Chewie, you can't come with me. You're going to be bad too. And Chewie's like,
Didn't Chewie just like lift him?
yeah. Chewie's like,
Picks him up and
fuck you.
carries
He's
him.
just like,
Yeah.
shut the
He's
fuck
like,
up.
I'm going, you bitch. And so they go on the Falcon and they go back to Shalvain and they go back to the city and back to the altar that Shira was at. And they get
I just love that, like, there's no way that they say this, but, you know, like Luke being like, oh, man, it's glad that you came with me. He's like, you trying to take my fucking ship. There's
Yeah.
no way that this
fuck
leaves
you.
my fucking
yeah,
sight.
Yeah, you're crazy. You're
I don't
crazy
give a
for this.
shit about you, dude.
Yeah. But they get attacked by the Gundarks again, and they're hiding. And then an old one tells them that he's going to help them if he proves that his gods are strong.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is sick.
And so Luke
he
uses...
like hides in a little like dark cave with him.
Yeah, they do like a cup and ball thing, all right? And he uses the Force to lift all 3 cups, and he's like, oh, shit, okay, all right.
got some
I love
pretty
that
smart
there's a
gods.
moment where he's like trying to use the Force or something. I seem to recall, and he's like, "It's not working, huh? Like your gods sleep. Gods have to sleep and eat sometimes too. So like, it's cool, dude."
And then he
Such a fun concept.
he
He's
lifts
like,
it
no,
up.
I get it.
He lifts it. It's like Zeus vibes.
Yeah.
yeah. He lifts it up and he's like, "Oh shit, okay. Well, your gods are hardcore, so come on, you're in the club now." So they go to the altar and
Oh,
actually,
not just that. After that, the lights turn on, and he's been surrounded
like
by
hundreds
like
of them, yeah.
hundreds, and he's like, "It's a good thing your gods showed up because otherwise we were just gonna kill you."
and
Yeah.
Luke's like,
Looks like
he does that emoji where like smoke comes out of his nose. And so they go to the altar, and it turns out the altar's not an altar; it's a transmitter.
I don't understand how this works at all.
And so
the blood.
oh, you got his blood DNA.
so it's a blood.
do
So
ya?
it's a blood verification system.
Or is it because they have Vader's and he's his son? Where he's like,
No. So
I don't know.
the blood system, when she puts her blood on it, helps her get the messages and send and receive them. But it was also keyed to receive Luke's blood, and if it received Luke's blood,
yeah, I
It
got
would-
that. I'm
it
just
would
like, how do
play
they
the
know
message.
Luke's blood type?
'Cause
They,
it's
like,
on record, dude.
Like get his hand.
I
It's
don't
on
understand
record,
how
dude,
there's
yeah.
a blood like the whole vibe of like blood transmission
Remember-
activate. It's wild.
He had to go to the hospital in the Empire once, right? So they probably have it.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Remember when he got the crimson fever or whatever? So
yeah.
So then he spills his blood, and then Darth Vader shows up, and they're like, "We dare you to buy this
I
next."
can't believe that's in this.
And it's actually not Vader; it's actually a fucking hologram. So Luke shoots.
Well, it's
at
a
it.
hologram of Vader.
He shoots at it, but it's not a mess. It's like an answering machine, right?
Yeah, he shoots through it and he's like, "What? It's not even Vader."
Yeah.
Here's the image. I've come for you. Holograms, by the way, don't look realistic in the universe. Famously, they've got all
Sure.
this shit. So
That
it's weird when it's
hilarious,
like a perfect recreation.
Well, Vader springs for the big bucks. Issue 63, the Mind Spider. Luke shoots at it. He finds out it's a hologram. He's like, "This is a hologram, you dumb bitch. I hired Shira to kill you specifically and to destroy your life.
The
and
fact-
she failed at most things, but even in death, fucked up your shit so hard. She was such a good
The fact that he would reveal that is insane to me. Like,
Also-
even your best operative dead, you just wouldn't give that away.
Also, Mara Jade?
That's the Emperor's hand, not Vader's.
I know, but like, right?
Same vibe.
Yeah, like maybe
Luke loves a female Imperial.
Yeah. So Vader says, "You have no one in your life anymore, little man. Ha ha ha. You have to join me. So you have no friends anymore except for me. So come see me."
Find me.
So Luke's like, "Oh shit. I'm going to go to the data vault on Crake and get this information that I need."
This weird ass data vault. Like the craziest design.
Dude, this is the shit that gets me fucking
Yeah.
excited. Like it's a like cosmic horror, Giger-ish. Like
It's
looks
really
like
weird.
A creature that's like half breaking into metamorphosis, but the
Wait, we're not
idea-
there yet, though. Hold on. We got
Well, no,
more,
I was
we
saying
got
like
more scene.
the stuff about the like this also concept of like removing, making it such that Luke has no one to turn to but Vader
Right.
is tight. Also, but don't tell like
It's a little ham-fisted.
It's dumb because you told him, so then he's like, "Oh wait,
I'm good.
so I just need to get evidence and I'm fine." Like he has to actually think that he has no friends to do it. So I don't know. I like love this whole setup. The execution
A lot is
was
spelled
bad,
out.
and so I
Ominous.
was like,
Yeah.
"Damn."
So,
I wish it was like better.
Yeah. So Vader's in his room meditating, and Jill comes up and is like, "I'm sorry I lost the teasel," but Vader's like, all right, you're kind of a G for like being cool with me killing you. So you're just a lieutenant now instead of an admiral.
It's kind of similar to what like Captain Nita does, where he's like, I'll accept full responsibility. He's like, I don't accept the blame for this, but as the admiral, it is ultimately my responsibility. So I will accept whatever punishment. And that's like
Vader's like,
that. He's like,
good answer.
Fuck you. I didn't do this, but the buck ends with me. So here I am.
Yeah, and so they get word that the like shrine thing got blown up, and he's like, all right, time to go to the fucking Craig's planet. And by the way, the hologram thing completely explodes, and the Gundarks don't care at all, which I thought was funny.
They don't like the Empire, so they're like, get off.
So they go back, and they're on their way through these tunnels to the vault. They get to it, and the hive mind of Imperial data is guarded by shields, and it looks like a spider, which
Some
is
sort
what
of
it's
mind
called.
spider.
It kind of is. So
But it was built. What was the? Do you have the quote of how it was built?
It just says the computer said the vault complex had been grown, that it had been extruded by slugs like the one we saw in the tunnel as a sort of crystal cocoon shaped by Imperial engineers using sonics to control the slug's movements.
What the fuck are we talking? That's insane and awesome.
Yeah.
It like conceptually is fucking tight. It just is wacky. And also if this is all the information, why is there like 3 security guards? Like, why isn't it like a Star Destroyer right above it or something?
No idea, but even weirder, Luke's like, Vader's watching me, so I gotta do something crazy. I'm gonna go like do like a Hitman 47 move and like go for the fucking kitchen. And they get to the chef, and he like has him at gunpoint, and they like force him to like hack the kitchen terminal to access the data files.
Am I crazy, or was he like Chef Boyardee?
Yeah.
Where they're like, the guy has like the soup, and he's like, oh, this is like a little different than you normally do. You put new spice in it, and then it's like, oh, I'm feeling sleepy, and the guy's like, I'm so sorry. These guys came in, I had to do the thing. I'm trying to do an Italian accent, not anything else.
You were trying to do a Chef Boyardee accent.
Thank you.
You're trying to do Super Mario.
I just felt like
from
it was
the Mushroom
good,
Kingdom.
and if people think I'm doing a different one, that's what I was aiming for, and I apologize.
No, it's a Chef Boyardee.
We all sound so Italian. So
I had the roof for you. I had no choice.
he gets the Shira
spaghetti.
Brie. He gets the sausage. He gets the Shira Brie info, and you find out she was like indoctrinated as a child, like Tulsi Gabbard.
Just like a CRT ass monitor with like even all this like
She's
just
doing karate.
She's like
when
training.
when they've shown monitors in other Star Wars, there's no like, isn't it like the see-through screen with like dots of stuff? It's
Yes.
like weird to just
Yeah,
be like,
no, this is TVs in this one.
this is like the news reports from the Dark Knight
literally
Returns,
looks-
whenever they
yeah.
show like the talking heads.
Literally. So he gets this data ship, and then like a stormtrooper shoots it out of his hands, and Chewbacca gets split up with him, and he gets the Falcon, and he tricks the bridge crew into like he uses the Force to have them bring down their shield. He like gets in the mind of the commander for a second, and he wants to go back in and save Chewbacca, and he flies the Millennium Falcon through the facility and blows it up,
I don't even know how that works.
which is cool.
Is she
It's like a
supposed
hold-on
to be
maneuver?
Black Widow?
That's very interesting. Like just looking at it.
visually and
you
her
mean,
like
like-
whole backstory is like she was trained in combat,
Yeah,
infiltration, all this stuff.
interesting.
Well, I think she's just supposed to be kind of like a ninja operative,
Sure.
like literally Mara Jade. Like like Black Widow is a great analog, but there's a lot of those. It's like the hand of whatever. It's like a trope.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is sick because I'm pretty sure he just flies through it because he's like,
Yeah, he literally rams through it, and like I guess the shields
yeah, he's
like don't let it
boost
be
the
a
Falcon's
problem.
deflector shield, and he just becomes a bullet through it. But it's like
It
I
looks
don't
awesome.
think doesn't matter. We're in comic land, but it's like that's not.
It's the first hold maneuver, and it legitimizes it.
It's not a hold on maneuver. He's just flying.
It's a Skywalker
through it.
maneuver, dude.
He's not.
Okay,
He's not going through in hyperspace. It's just weird that like. How does that much bigger thing than it not just like crush it? I don't know. Like
Skywalker, man.
Mind spider maneuver.
Yeah, mind spot. It's the
MSN.
extruded mind-based maneuver. Maybe it's because it's like a web
so it's
thing?
a deflector shield. If this is still following the earlier stuff that they like describe in the books, where it's basically just like Dune tech, does that stop any object that's moving fast or just energy stuff?
I understand the Star Wars shields to not protect against projectiles. but I don't know.
But they are like deflector shields.
Yeah, no, like when they go through the asteroid field, you can see it. You can see the asteroids impact it, and they like explode.
You're right. And then when the shield is overloaded, that's when it like gets through. And,
But also you can fly through it, right? So it's like the same as the.
So is the idea that like at least if it holds because he's flying fast enough, it counts as a fast-moving object?
I don't know. I don't think they thought about it that much. I think they just wanted him to break through it.
It just made a sick panel?
Yeah, because it's made of spider webs or whatever. So maybe
yeah,
that's why.
I guess because it's like a cocoon and not like metal.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why they did
Although
that.
spiders' webs, isn't that like
it's like
one of the most like tough
it's not
materials?
It's not spider webs. It's like slugs, crystal poop. It's crystal slug poop.
It's some sort of crystal poop. You're right.
Yeah. It just looks like a spider. So Darth Vader underestimates Luke. He's like, I fucked up. This is on me. And the Falcon gets away, and Chewbacca Luke's like, man, I didn't even get the info. And Chewbacca's like, yes, you did. I went back, and that's why I went back and got it. And we're back on the Executor, and Vader's hiding Shira Bree's body on the ship, and Shira is very much alive and ready for action for round 2 later.
Whenever that might be.
It's actually pretty soon. Star Wars number 64 is Seraphidian Eyes.
Star Trek episode.
Star
Trek.
This is the beginning of a new arc, basically.
This is 100% Star Trek. You cannot convince me otherwise. This is like when they end up on the planet, like, it's lizard people, but they're in the Middle Ages. It's wacky.
They remind me of the Nogri again. The same, like, species from the Zoniverse that we were talking about last time.
There is a legit... In multiple shots, there are lizard people doing, like, one is an old babushka woman, like, stirring a pot. One is just, like, a D&D fantasy woman who has, like, a metal bikini on. There's, like, a bunch of lizard guys, like, in a pub. Like,
it absolutely rips. I would pay $10,000 to be there in real life right now.
One of the craziest things I've ever seen. It's pure Star Trek.
But we start at the base on Arbra, and Luke and Burl and Tarheel are ready to go to get some spies on Surfidi in the Belial system, which is a crazy name for a system. But Burl is got a goofy face, and Tarheel is a babe. Mm-hmm. Just so you guys can
rip Burl.
Yeah, Burl, who never has a line. I don't even think.
No, and then
he just dies quickly, and then they're like, "Oh, for him." He would have loved this or that, and you're like, stop.
No,
and then they just had like dark-haired woman who is 90% of the comic. I don't remember Luke doing shit in this. I remember she's like, "I'll never marry you. Don't eat me. What are you going to do? Oh no!" Like the entire issue is just her dealing with this.
This is so weird.
This is actually insane. Okay, so they get in the dogfight and they like crash on the surface, and Burl and Luke also land because she loses one of her foils. And they land with her, and so they're establishing that she's like a crack pilot.
It's like, why even have 4 then if one just fucking...
And then one of them gets killed. It's Burl. And then Cinda gets captured, and Luke is free. So Luke is in the forest, and he comes across a Surfidian who is old, and he is being attacked by a tree, which is exactly what's happening.
Yep.
Because he is out practicing for something that is called the Doom Joust. So this guy's like,
hey, if you're listening at home and you don't know what a Doom Joust is,
neither do we.
Just imagine a joust.
Yeah,
literally just a joust.
Just a joust, but you can shoot.
There's joust, but there's somehow lasers.
You can shoot at each other,
but they're also just wearing armor from the 14th century.
From the Ren Fair. Yeah.
This is just
so he's like, thank you. He's like, thank you for saving my life. There. This old man is like, thank you for saving from that tree. Come back to my house. I'll tell you the story of the planet over a home cooked meal. My wife's gonna make it for you,
and
though.
She's there. She's like, "Oh, I'm making this stew."
Yeah, and so it turns out
like
they used to be
Princess Bride.
Yes,
yeah,
Billy
it's actually like Yoda vibes, even. And Surfidi used to be highly technological, but they abused the technological stuff, and so there was like violent outbreaks amongst the people. And so to wrap that up, they decide to give up technology, become Luddites, and peace came to the world. And then the like last king like started bringing tech back, and they like changed all their
knights. This iPod?
They changed their courtly games from being like fun stress relievers to being like life or death games. And so now they're like, we got to take the king out, but the joust is how you decide who's king. So he was like practicing so that he could be the king and kill the guy. And then Luke's like, I'll be your squire. And there's some back and forth about it. It's funny because Luke's like, I don't want to be a squire. And he's like, well, I mean, I'm older than you. And he's like, okay, I'll be your squire. And he's like thinking to himself, well, Luke thinks to himself, if I do this, then I get in the castle anyway, so this works out for me. And so that's what they do. And then they go to the castle of King Shisha, which Cinda is like, I'm going to eat you.
It's one of the
But
plot,
I like to play with my food.
yeah,
so.
it's wild. She's like, I'll never marry you. And he's like, marry, lady, I'm gonna eat you for dinner, but before I do, and it's like, whoa, what is happening?
Yeah,
He's like, I'm definitely gonna bang you before I eat you.
You're like, Jesus fucking Christ. And so Luke, meanwhile,
Well,
is,
that's not what you guys do?
I don't know, Luke is on his third or fourth try with the Doom Joust. And,
Different order.
And the old man realizes that Luke has got it and that he's an old man. And so Luke starts to become the golden child that they're training. And then Cinda's being set up for dinner, and she's trying to get out, and she's fighting guards, and then the king gets her again.
Dude, there's like an insane panel I took a picture of. They spent a whole page, like she's just out hiding, and they just like show a stormtrooper, and they give more like words than the rest of the thing have about the background. They're like, this stormtrooper Ben was always coming in second place at the academy, at the whatever.
And then just gets punched in the face.
And then he gets like sickly
I
kicked
love
and
that.
beaten because the whole bit is like, she knocked out the other guard first. That was the guy that always was ahead of him. But it was like,
Great bit.
You spent a lot of time giving more backstory to this stormtrooper than literally she has.
Yes.
Literally the guy that
Or
gets
Burl.
killed.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, remember Beryl always talked about getting a fucking riverside house?
I'm
So
like,
he'll love
literally,
this. And
I'm
you're
like, literally, no, I don't
no one
remember
knows
that.
this guy. Nobody cares.
But anyway, this makes it too late for him to eat her before the joust. So he's like, all right, come to the joust. I'll eat you after the joust.
you
And-
fucking mogwai?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so Luke challenges the king to the Doom Joust because he's like, I'll have my boy do it instead. And Luke like is there, and they're like, oh shit, it's Luke. And
I was surprised that for all these rules, they were just like, oh, there's no problem with another person
well, the
doing
king
it.
the king gets gassed up when he sees that it like Luke and Cinda know each other because he thinks it's going to be even more brutal. So he thinks that's going to be like awesome. So he's like, I'm doing this. And so
He's a freak.
it's bad, and Luke
like
gets
his
his ass
energy.
beat, and he finds out that like he's gonna like cheat. I don't know if you're allowed to do this, but they like exchange blows a couple times and figure shit out, and it looks like Luke's gonna lose. But then Luke like sees that the king like is gonna pull like a little mini blaster out on him, and then Luke like kills him.
You know, you don't do that. You don't pull a mini blaster on a man.
Like
Am I crazy, or was there another element to where like he was cheating in the jousting thing, where like he had like less energy in his thing or something, or was he actually just bested?
he was, in my opinion, he was beaten by this guy fair and square, and then Luke like
Aced him.
aced him right at the end.
I thought it was more of like a Knight's Tale vibe, where the dude was clearly cheating a little bit.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I got the feeling that
Yeah, he was like good. I don't remember
got the
exactly,
feeling he
but
was
then
just
once
scary.
it became like a ground fight, Luke was like,
yeah, just aced him out because he pulled
But
the
again,
gun
they're
on him.
just straight up Ren Fair fighting.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so he dies.
but it's got lasers on it.
Right.
He
But
dies-
It's also lizard. It's like watching the dragon. Like it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but you're playing the dragons, and it's like
it's fucking weird.
Yeah,
but
it's a weird issue.
but it kind of does feel like this type of Star Wars at the very least. Like this is par for the course in the Protoverse.
in the
This-
comics. Yes,
yeah.
it feels
This
comic-y.
is one of those things that felt like a early, like we would have seen this in the late 70s versions.
Yeah. So Luke's like, this old guy's the king now. And that means that the king now supports the rebels. And so he gets the support of this species, the Serphidians. And Cinna and Luke take off in their X-Wings. And they're like, damn, Burl. We miss Burl. Remember Burl? And Luke's like, no, I don't remember Burl. Gotta go. And that's the last time we ever hear of Burl. And then we
Rip.
get to issue 65.
Gone and forgotten.
Yep. But you know who doesn't forget? Golrath. Because
Golrath never
Yeah,
forgets.
this is issue 65.
Yeah.
Golrath never forgets. Luke Skywalker stands trial for Shira Bree and is cleared immediately, and he becomes a commander again. And after the trial, an engineer is saying that there's a rock. This is crazy. There's like a rock that he has on his desk that turns out to like record video of whatever's around it, and they realize that the whole last base that they had was covered in these video recording rocks, and so they have to go back to the rebel base to destroy all the video
'Cause it could
recording
give-
rocks
Is it-
Yeah.
because it's intelligent.
Is it a play on like how like vinyl or other things like record data through like weird, like the
I
idea
don't
that
know,
it, like
but-
records the visual things of it.
I have no idea, but there is later a rock that does the very same thing, but just with sound. So I don't know what they were on with this shit, but they thought it was cool.
Is that supposed to be the thing that has Han Solo that Leia looks at? Because she has a rock that she just looks at. It's like, oh, Han, and it shows an image of Han Solo. Or is that a totally different piece of
No,
technology?
because that thing is 3D, right?
I just thought it was a hologram.
I thought it was an orb. Like it was a circle, and she's looking at it like a magic
Pondering
ball.
her orb.
that can be a nice little. That can be a nice little headcanon swerve.
I mean, I have
take
no
that.
clue.
I'll take that.
But this is it. Does it play out scenes or just images?
It according to like what happens, they believe that army is running towards them, and
But,
they
like,
fire at it.
But like,
yeah,
how
okay,
do you
so that was the weird
access
thing.
it?
Like, yeah, like I
Is
think
there
it
a
just-
rewind feature?
No,
How does
it has to do with cooling, the rock cooling down.
like when it cools down, it then releases that. But it's like
yeah, I don't look.
But
don't
what would it
overthink-
release? What
you are the one responsible.
Don't overthink it.
what parts would it release? Is it in order?
I don't know. I don't
Do you
think
have to
about
her
it, don't
story
think about
it
it
and
too
like
hard.
put
just,
pieces together?
Just
Like, what's the-
believe that the people who did the research have judged it to be a threat and that they need to go exit out. Luke and Leia make friends again because they kind of like cleared the air after the Shira thing, which I don't think Luke really had to apologize for, but whatever. And
They did like a thing where like at the end of that he like comes and they're doing like
They're
a
really close to
tribunal.
kissing, maybe. Yeah.
Well, and they were like, for the crimes of this and this, we find you not guilty. Like,
No. But then they have the shot, and it's like a red silhouette scene, and they get real close, and I'm like, what are they doing here? What's happening?
yeah, it's super weird. So they figure this out by looking at a moment of Luke. Like,
Shira's gone, and Leia's like, well,
that's
give the
rough.
boys their fantasy. Yeah.
That's rough. Maybe we can have something. Maybe not. We'll find out in 1 year's time.
My man's gone.
we're going to imply
Your lady's gone.
something, but
Yeah.
we can't show it because
Yeah. So the planet's cooling down, which is why these things are starting to show
As
up.
planets do.
Yeah.
Well, it was the like the lava base,
Right.
So it like
So that's why it's happening, but it's still silly. And the fleet scrambles, and they're going to go all to Golrath to like go blow this up because the magma's cooling down. And the stormtroopers there are Gil's troopers, and they like realize this is happening.
By the way, this is the hardest shot of everything we've seen. The two stormtroopers laying outside smoking.
it's vibes.
It's awesome. That's
It's
my
vibes.
favorite image they've ever created in all these comics. They're just chilling.
Shout outs, Ween. What's her name?
Glynis Ween.
Glynis Ween, the greatest colorist of all time.
Dude, some of the notes are just like, she's the best. I have no idea who she is, but I'd marry her if she was still around.
So
She like, I didn't realize there's a lot of like shirts. I even have some where they do this like pastel sunset color scheme for Star Wars, and I didn't realize that came from somewhere. I thought it was just like, oh, that's just like kind of fun in the vaporwave age to
Glynis.
like do stuff.
It's Glynis, baby. So they send a message to Vader being like, we got this crazy rock situation, and the rebels arrive at the same time. And the fighters are overhead, and Leia jetpacks down in her own little mission to get in there, like stealth-wise, while the ships are like distracting everybody, and she breaks in, and she gets the power reactor, and she's trying to overload the core to blow up the base, and she takes out stormtroopers, but then Gil himself sees her and fires on her, and she's stuck down behind some boxes, but he doesn't want to stop her. Instead, he wants to trap her inside and blow her up.
This is weird. Like Gil was a
I don't know why he wants
understandably
to
like
die.
smart guy.
Yeah.
And then he, I think, wanted to, I don't know, instead of doing the obvious thing, which is just like lock the situation down and get your job back because he got like fired or demoted, he like makes it a weird one-on-one.
It's like a Metal Gear Solid boss, and he decides to lock her in, and she uses a cart and like uses her rocket thing to like.
Well, he like bluffs her too because, or he's like, she's like, I'll blow us up. And he's like, that's fine. Like either we get the stuff or we kill the greatest figurehead of the rebellion. And he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm like an Imperial simp. Like I would love that I would be dying to like give my life for something. I'll be like a hero forever. And then like, wow, she's like, whoa, maybe I don't have like a bargaining chip. He does something, but then she also does something. It's like weird.
So the doors open, she gets out, he chases her, but he can't stop her. She calls Lando, who can get her out of there. He shoots his blaster at the X-Wing before getting in his own ship.
So fucking
He gets out, the base explodes, the rebels escape off the surface, and there's a huge fireball that destroys the whole base. and they jump into hyperspace, except for Luke, who got shot by the gun, and so he's now crippled. Yeah, he's just still stuck there, and now there's TIE fighters.
So Gil's whole thing is, like, I know that they have to get away, but it is dumb because he knew she was going there.
Right.
They have the force, the numbers. There was no reason that he shouldn't have just, like, kidnapped her or killed her. Him going by himself does absolutely nothing. As the commander of that post, he would still get credit. Like, it's just, they make him go do a thing to be dumb. And then the shooting of the, like, Luke thing is so, where he's like, I know that it's not going to do anything, but it will make me feel better to just shoot at him. So he, like, pulls out the gun and shoots him.
And it totally
and then
works.
it works. And you're just like,
God damn it. Yeah.
I don't like this.
It's just like silly. Yeah, it's just silly. God bless him, but it's silly.
And it's only especially dumb because they've been, like, by and large nailing it with the stuff that you're like, all right.
This is the beginning where we start to go off the rails.
Yeah, this next one kind of wraps it up. And
Next
then,
one's full off the rails for me. This one is just X-Men in space.
This is the water bandits. This is where Luke is on the planet Behemoth as the squadron is looking for him, and they pass, and he goes back to his lunch, and he finds out that his lunch is actually fucked and that it's filled with sand lice, and so instead of, like, camping out, he's going to have to, like, get to a town or he's going to starve to death.
Dude, this seems like such a, like, the part of me that romanticizes camping without ever actually having done it. The idea that he's like, all right, I got to lay low. So, like, it's not weird, I guess, because of travel time in this to be, like, out for a little while. So he's like, I found a rocky place. I'm just going to camp here for, like, a week or two. Like, that's cool. Like, where is that?
I mean, when he was with Yoda, he opened up his bag and he had all this stuff in there.
That's just, like, that concept is sick. Just, like, hanging out and, like, you got, like, a grotto and an X-Wing in your, like, little camping set.
I got this game for you. It's called No Man's Sky.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of like that, where it'd be like, cool. Like, what would Luke get up to there? Like, meditate? Like, that would be kind of sick.
Actually, admittedly, I'd be terrified.
There's a
You're on
great
a strange planet. You don't know where you're at. Who knows what's out there? You're stuck out by yourself. I would not be
You're
a fan.
fucking Jedi.
You got to see the deleted scene.
You have space technology.
You got to see the deleted scene from Jedi, where he's got the goggles.
Dude, that's such a cool look.
That's a vibe. All right, so he doesn't have R2-D2 either, so he's just, like, gonna walk towards Garantine, which is the name of the outpost, and he gets to a cantina and he tries to get food, and they're like, fine, you can have food, but you can't have any water. And he's like, but it's illegal not to serve water in the galaxy. What in the hell? And
Which is a hilarious rule to just
it's a wormy little moment.
Wormy.
A brawl almost busts out, and then this, like, beautiful woman named Dariel Anglethorn shows up and fires her gun, and she's like, I'll take this asshole out of here. I'll give him some water. Don't worry about it. They're bandits. They these people come and they rob our moisture farm. And he's like, moisture farm? I am from this planet, JK.
You're not going to believe this.
But actually, he's, like, super
I love
knowledgeable.
the farm moisture.
And he thinks it's interesting, and he wants to, like, get redemption for, like, kind of like what happened on Tatooine, I guess. I don't really know, but he, like, feels some sort of connection with the moisture farmer. So he says, I'll be your bodyguard, and the Empire is here, and I'm going to hide here. And they go to her farm. And so he waits till the nighttime, and insanely, a psychic force appears that, like, communicates some weird stuff to him, and then everybody passes out, including Luke, and in the morning, it turns out that the brigands had come and taken everything away. At this point in the story, I did not think the brigands were real, and I thought that I was going to find out that there was, like, some other thing happening. That was not the case. He realizes that Dariel's also missing, so he goes off to find her, and everybody's like, don't go over there, you're going to get fucked up, but he does it anyway. And he gets there, and he gets captured, and we meet Gideon Longspar, which is a great name, and he looks awesome. And he says that he captured Dariel and has stolen all the water supplies from her farm using the Tirith, which is another Teasel-esque situation.
Fuck off.
It's an empathetic...
I was excited for, like, what's the mystery? This is not the answer.
It's an empathic hive mind that he keeps half free and half as a captive, because every part of it feels what every part of it feels. And so he's, like, kind of, like, enslaved this creature to do this for him.
The weird thing is they, like, talk about how it can manipulate atoms and do all this cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't it just knock him out and free itself, like, like
Because he had it hostage. I know.
So
I know.
you're asleep, and then
know.
you're unhostage.
Look,
It's
I
just-
understand, but it's not reality. It's just what I've been told. I just read it.
You're right. You're right.
I
It's not
just
your-
read it on this on the
that's-
book. I just saw it there.
That's why the rest of these do not land for me. Is because the motivation of everyone from this issue on, the entire time, all my notes are like, why did that person do this? What the hell is this? Why wouldn't they do that? It drives me crazy. Like, it just, things exist to exist
You
with
gotta
no
like
explanation.
suspend disbelief, sure, but some things are just
It's
so
not,
absurd that
it's
you're
not
like,
the best story in here. I'll say that for sure. It's very like, it feels like they just gave us random stuff that felt Star Warsy and kind of like tried to shoehorn. They had the idea of like a moisture farmer and that something would be like poisoning the moisture farmer. And then somebody was like, I got this like alien spawn thing. You want to use that? And they're like, okay. It like has that kind of vibe. Yeah, so that's what's happening is that it's getting into the moisture evaporators.
because it can just get out of stuff.
Yeah,
except for
the one
the thing
guy who
that
has
it's
him
in.
trapped.
Yeah. But that's why
But it makes them go to sleep because it like alters
it sure does seem
reality or something.
It sure does seem like a bad situation for that life form.
The crazy thing is the entire time, every panel of this issue is just like little tiny green dots everywhere.
It looks like It's a Small World. They're in a prison cell. This It's a Small World gas dot thing is like, don't worry, I will literally just control the guards, which is crazy. And then Luke uses the Force to unlock like a Chipotle bathroom latch to unlock the jail cell. And they get to Longspar's chamber. The brigand attacks Luke with his own lightsaber. He tricks him into like using the lightsaber to open the cage, the magical cage that was keeping Tirith inside. It gets free. Gideon doesn't see Luke punch him in the face. And it tells them to blow up the water tanks. And he's like, what? But the water, like the Dariel's like, I'm a moisture farmer. That's like the worst thing you could possibly do. Like, you're going to destroy everything. And it's like, no.
That's like asking me to kill my cow.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's like-
bad example.
Yeah. He's like literally
Like my chick.
the planet, the Tirith is like, I got you. Don't worry. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Just trust me on this. And they're like, okay. And then they shoot it and it's like Escape from LA. They're all surfing on surfboards and getting out of there. And they escape and they get up onto like a beam or something. And the next day it turns out that for the first time in like however fucking long it
rains.
rained because the Tirith was like able to do this thing where it like made the planet have a water cycle again. And now there's moisture and water again and they don't have to suffer.
Which again, going back to what Davis was saying, makes no sense on why it was trapped.
Yeah.
Like, it does not make sense.
I agree. I just had to take it for what it was. I thought it's weird how many alive but not alive entities that have very specific powers there are in this run of Star Wars. But that is the issue.
Again, it's Trekkie. It's a little Star all this. This seems like a Star Trek episode.
The water bandits, like from Home Alone.
This really like
The wet bandits?
a lot of this is Star Trekky in the way that things play out, the way that science does weird stuff, and just this like, or they're really like morality tales told in
lot of
things.
morality
The movies don't even have this many moving parts. Like
No,
at once.
no,
Like
yeah.
there's so many different little things going on sometimes in this that it feels it doesn't quite feel Star Wars.
If anything, even midi-chlorians as a concept still have the mystery of the Force. This is just like an alien who is everything and nothing makes it rain. Like, that's Star Trek.
Reading this shit and then hearing about midichlorians, I am not like, this came out of nowhere, George. What the fuck are you on? Like, it feels very much like something that belongs in this sort of
That's what I was saying at the beginning. That 90s period, everything's dark and gritty, and then George comes along and it feels like this instead.
Yeah, big time. Big time. It's very much like a different tone.
I think that's why people were
general.
shocked. It's a completely different vibe than what the 10 years prior had given people.
But the people who grew up with those movies never felt a Star Wars without that vibe, so it's kind of interesting. I would be interested to hear what a Gen Z reader thought of these comics, these original Marvel comics. Like somebody who grew up watching Hello There. And like and what they think of this. That's my vibe. Let's do this again because these Star Wars comic books ones are a little bit longer. Let's take a break here.
Okay.
We'll be back next week with another part of Star Wars Epic Collection Part 2. And then we got some rapid fire episodes after that. Let me go over that really quick with you guys because we got some good ones coming up here just because I want to get you guys hype. So we just did newspaper strips and comics 3, right? And now we've done comics 4. Part 1. Well, we're also going to do part 2. No spoilers, but that's the next one. The next one's going to be part 2 of this. Then we're right into the book version of Return of the Jedi by James Caan, which is not the actor.
not
the
James
actor.
Caan.
That around that time, you're also going to get the Patreon watch along, which I hope you guys enjoyed the Star Wars watch along that came out recently on the feed. It's exactly like that, but for Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
I'm so excited to watch that theatrical Return of the Jedi because this one is the expensive one. This one's like the big bucks one, and so I'm excited to see early '80s Star Wars without any.
It's still like
It's the
some of
the
the
Last
scale in it
Crusade.
is so
It's
impressive.
the Last Crusade of Star Wars. And it really has that vibe. Then we're going to do the movie. Then it's the Lando trilogy.
Let's go.
Which is 3 books of Lando.
Lando's not a trilogy. He's
Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu.
What a great name.
Lando Calrissian and the Flame Wind of Ossian. Flame
Amazing.
Wind is one word. And Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Thambaka. And Star Cave is one word.
dude, you know he thumbbacked something in the cave.
So there's a lot of actual reading and Star Wars outside of this weird protoverse coming up. So get hyped for that. We love you. See you next time for part 2 of Marvel Comics 4.
Bye.
Bye, baby.
The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions from our listeners at patreon.com/SWOCBC. Thank you for your support. This month's Patreon Masters of the Force are Sovereign, Ian Berenade, Trevor Isom, Patrick Rowland, Matt Wars 56, Amy W, Jazz Owl, Evan Alexander Guillen, Peacetime Mando, and Metroid Mike. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with a discussion about our next selection, Return of the Jedi, a novel by James Caan. This episode was edited by Alex Del Campo and Alex Faciani. The theme song is Venus, the Bringer of Peace by Gustav Holst, performed by the U.S. Air Force Heritage of America Band. Original show art by Jackie Whistler. See you next time.